Hey guys, tonight we drift far from cozy beds and city lights. You stand barefoot on damp planks, the sea beneath you a yawning monster that never sleeps. The night air stinks of sweat, tar and salt. The wind flaps ragged canvas sails above your head, and something hard, possibly a chicken bone or someone's pipe, skitters past your foot as the ship rocks violently. Welcome aboard the pirate's life, where sleep is rare. Comfort is a distant joke, and your odds of surviving the week depend entirely on whether the quartermaster likes your face. The ship you're on is no romantic beauty with billowing sails and gold trim. It's patched with mismatched boards, reeking of gunpowder and damp wool. Barnacles crust the hull, rats skitter in the shadows, a hammock sags between two posts damp and stained with something you hope is soup. It's a floating prison, but one that moves and that, in the medieval world, is already halfway to freedom. So before we go any further, if this quiet space makes you feel even a little less alone, you can like the video and subscribe, but only if it feels right to your heart. And hey, I'd love to know where you're listening from. Are you lying awake in a quiet room at 2 a.m? Or maybe starting your day in a rainy city, eyes still heavy? Drop your time and place in the comments. Let's remind each other we're not alone out here. Now, dim the lights, let your shoulders relax, and let's begin tonight's slow, strange journey. Together, here on Timeless Sleep. You rise from your hammock, or maybe you never slept. The night watch passed without attack. Good. But the sunrise brings the quartermaster's whistle, sharp and shrill. Time to work. Your legs wobble slightly, not from fear, but from the constant motion of the deck beneath you. Land is a distant memory. The sea has a rhythm now, and your body, reluctantly, has learned to dance to it. Life aboard this pirate vessel is strict chaos. You think it's all anarchy until you see the chart nailed near the helm. Someone, maybe the captain, maybe the ship's scribe if such a person still exists, has drawn out the days in charcoal. Who's on cooking duty? Who's mending sails? Who's stuck watching the powder room? Which sounds glamorous until you realise it means babysitting barrels of explosives during rough seas. It's not all shouting and blood. There's a strange kind of order on this ship, a gritty routine stitched together by salty men and women who've traded solid ground for drifting freedom. Tasks are divvied out by vote or command, and there's little room for complaining. No one cares that your back aches, or that you haven't changed your shirt in a week. Everyone smells the same, like damp rope and boiled cabbage. You move through the lower deck, ducking under beams so low they've left permanent dents in your scalp. The cook, Big Jory, whose beard contains a fork he lost 2 days ago, grunts at you as he stirs a slop of beans and weevil-spotted bread crusts. It smells awful. You eat it anyway. Outside, the sun stabs through the mist like a blade. The lookout yawns in the crow's nest, clearly unimpressed by the possibility of attack. You tie ropes, hoist sails, patch a hole that might or might not be from a musket ball. Everything smells like wet socks and old iron. You aren't alone, of course. The crew is a tapestry of outcasts. Former fishermen, escaped slaves, failed merchants, drunkards, dreamers. Some speak in thick dialects, others barely speak at all. But here, names don't matter much. Your worth is measured in grit, in how fast you can climb, how steady your hand is when loading a cannon, and whether you have the guts to stand on a rope-thin mast during a squall. That's the beauty and terror of this floating world. On land, you were probably a nobody. At sea, you're still a nobody, but now you're a nobody with a cutlass. The captain, a wiry woman with more scars than fingers, paces the deck like it owes her money. Her voice is low, barely rising above the wind, but when she speaks, even the parrots shut up. She once challenged a Portuguese galleon with a leaking sloop and won, mostly because the enemy crew was too shocked to react. She's missing an eye, wears a velvet vest stolen from a nobleman, and somehow still smells like cloves. Historians still argue whether pirates like her operated entirely outside traditional navies, or were sometimes secret agents, hired by monarchs under the table to raid their enemies. One document even claims a royal seal was found tucked in the false bottom of a pirate's chest, although others say it was just a poorly drawn fish. Back on deck, the younger pirates are betting on how long it'll take the carpenter to fall into the sea again. You nod a greeting to old Smalls, who's neither small nor young. He's sharpening a hook that might once have been part of an anchor, muttering about sea demons and taxes. No one knows where Smalls came from. He just showed up one day during a raid and never left. Around midday, someone spots a merchant sail far on the horizon. The mood shifts, eyes narrow, voices drop. Suddenly the deck feels smaller. You feel your hand slide instinctively toward the short dagger hidden in your belt sash. Not yet, not now, but soon. The wind changes, and with it the direction of the ship. Orders are barked, canvas unfurls, and ropes creak under the strain. The chase might last hours or days. Pirates don't always charge with cutlasses waving. Sometimes they tail their prey silently, waiting for a mistake. Other times they disguise their ship, running false flags to trick merchants into thinking they're harmless traders. You help adjust the course. Your fingers are blistered, but you barely notice anymore. The sea has a way of numbing everything but adrenaline. Someone points out a pod of dolphins trailing the ship. For a moment everything softens. Even the hardest pirate pauses to watch them leap, sleek and laughing like they know something you don't. Then the cook screams because the stew has caught fire again. It's a long day. By evening the merchant ship is still out of reach, and the mood has shifted again, from anticipation to frustration. You clean your blade, check the powder bag, and try to remember what dry socks feel like. You probably never will. Sleep comes in short bursts, if at all. You curl into your hammock, listening to the gentle splash of water against the hull. A rat scurries by your foot. Someone nearby is snoring like a warthog. Someone else is quietly crying. You pull your coat tighter, using it as a blanket, a pillow, and emotional armour. Up on the deck, someone's playing a slow tune on a battered fiddle. The notes drift down like fog, soft and eerie. You wonder if it's a lullaby or a warning. There are no stars tonight, just clouds and the promise of rain. You dream of land but wake to salt in your mouth. The sea doesn't let you go, not easily. It clings to your skin, your hair, your heartbeat. You're not a pirate yet, not fully, but you're closer than you were yesterday. You spot the captain standing near the helm in the morning, staring toward the still distant sails of your prey. Her eye catches yours. She nods once, slow and knowing. Not approval, not command, just confirmation that yes, you're still here, and here is all that matters. You chew a strip of dried meat that tastes like salted rope. Your teeth ache from grinding through the tough fibres. You think it might be fish, or possibly boot leather. Big Jory winks at you and mouths the word horse. He's probably joking. Probably. A shrill whistle again. This time it's not for duty. It's a warning. The merchant ship has turned. You're not chasing anymore. You're being challenged. The crew rushes to battle stations, though most of them aren't wearing pants yet. Powder monkeys scramble below deck. Cannons are prepped. You count 7. More than you thought this ship had. The 8th is now a chicken coop occupied by 3 hens and a particularly aggressive rooster. Everything sharp is now in someone's hand. Even spoons have been turned into shanks. The ship creaks like it's protesting what's about to happen. And yet, a calm settles over you. Because this is the pirate life, not the plunder, not the treasure, but this. The moment before the madness. The hush before the storm. You're no longer landfolk. You're no longer who you were. You're wind-racked, sun-bleached, sleep-starved, and hungry enough to chew a barrel. You're a pirate, and the sea doesn't care if you survive. The morning begins not with a rooster's crow, but with a blade tapping rhythmically against the mast. It's a warning, or maybe a reminder. If you're still on board, you're still in the game. The merchant ship you chased yesterday is gone. Either outran you or disappeared into fog, but there's no time to mope. Today's about you. Not you, the person exactly. You, the pirate recruit. The expendable one with the fresh sea legs who hasn't been tested yet. That's a problem. The crew doesn't fully trust anyone who hasn't bled, fought, or been thrown overboard at least once and climbed back up laughing. So how did you get here? Pirate crews weren't just a bunch of rowdy sea dogs scooping up randoms like you at every port. Getting accepted was more complicated. part opportunity, part politics, and part sheer desperation. You might have been press-ganged during a tavern brawl, lured in by coin or the promise of revenge, or maybe you just ran out of land to hide on. One way or another, here you are. You've crossed the line from landlubber to deck stumbler. The entry fee, everything you used to be. The first thing they made you do was swear loyalty. Not to a king, not to God, but to the crew. That's who matters now. Loyalty oaths varied between ships, sometimes spoken aloud under moonlight with a dagger to your palm, sometimes signed in crude ink on a wrinkled page called the Articles. Break the Articles and you weren't just thrown off the ship. You might be marooned, whipped, or, if you were lucky, left somewhere with just a pistol and one shot. A pirate's way of saying, choose your exit. One mainstream historical truth: pirate ships were often more democratic than the governments that hunted them. Most crews elected their captains and voted on big decisions like who to rob and how to divide the spoils. It wasn't all chaos and screaming, it was chaos with a vote. But don't get too inspired. This democracy didn't mean equality and comfort. The quartermaster got a larger share. The captain had a private cabin. The rest of you shared tight quarters where elbows jabbed and feet stank. Still, it beat the Royal Navy, where punishment came faster than food. Once you swore your loyalty, you had to be inspected. Not for health, no one expected you to be healthy, but to see if you could lift a sword or pull a rope without fainting. If your teeth weren't all rotted out, you were considered excellent stock. If you had both eyes and all your fingers, they figured you were overqualified. And yet pirate ships were surprisingly inclusive. Black sailors, escaped slaves, and women, disguised or bold, found places among the crew. Skill mattered more than origin. Historians still argue whether famous pirates like Anne Bonny and Mary Read were anomalies, or simply the ones who got caught. Others likely blended into the background, just another ragged figure climbing the rigging at dawn. Your trial period as a recruit isn't marked by ceremony, it's marked by looks. Side glances, someone accidentally testing your reflexes by hurling a rope knot toward your head, someone else handing you a loaded musket and watching how you hold it. No one explains the rules, you're supposed to learn them by surviving, like knowing which hammock not to swing too close to, the one that smells like dried blood and rum. Or knowing that if a crew member offers you a drink with a grin and no context, it's either friendship or poison. Possibly both. You're assigned your first official job, cleaning the head. That's the ship's toilet, dangling over the sea like a cruel joke. It's splintery, it leaks, and some of your crewmates have very questionable aim. Still, you do the job without complaining. Not because you're noble, but because you've seen what happens to the last guy who did complain. He's still on board, mostly. But he's scrubbing barnacles now. With his shirt and his tears, every moment is a test. During a storm, the boatswain shouts for you to help with the mainsail. You hesitate, then clamber up the mast, slipping once, heart crashing in your chest like thunder. You don't die, which earns you a grunt of approval. Not quite praise, but close enough. Days pass. You're given small responsibilities, standing night watch, assisting the carpenter, helping the gunner clean his rusted tools. One night, you catch a rat sneaking into the food supply and kill it with your boot. The cook gives you an extra piece of hardtack the next morning, which is a weird form of gratitude, but you take it. Then comes your real test. The ship is low on supplies. The captain decides it's time to raid a coastal fishing village. Not a full attack, just a quick hit and run. No cannons, no bloodbath. Ideally, you're picked to go ashore. No sword yet, just a knife and a sack. You wade through the surf, heart hammering. The village is half asleep, chickens clucking nervously in coops. You steal saltfish and dried cod, ducking behind barrels. One man sees you. He raises a club. You freeze, but the first mate grabs the man's wrist and smiles politely before knocking him cold. Back on the ship, you're praised for your quiet feet. You still smell like fish, but now you also smell like belonging. Your next trial isn't about theft. It's about standing your ground. A crewmate accuses you of shorting them during rum rations. You didn't, but that doesn't matter. You're told to settle it on deck in front of everyone. No weapons, just fists. You're terrified. He's bigger, older, meaner. But you dodge his first swing, land a lucky punch to his gut, and hold your own long enough for the others to call it a fair scrap. He limps for a day and never brings it up again. You find a crust of bread in your hammock that night. Peace offering maybe, or bait. Then comes the official sign you're in, your share of loot. After a small score, an abandoned sloop carrying sugar and fabric, you're handed a pouch. Inside, 8 silver coins, a brass ring, and half a ruby earring. No one explains where the other half went. You suspect the captain's parrot. That night you lie in your hammock counting your coins, the wood creaking gently beneath you. For the first time you feel not just accepted, but needed. You pulled your weight, kept your head down, made them laugh once or twice. You belong now. It's not glamour, it's not riches, but it's something, and at sea something is everything. Somewhere around the 7th week, you're allowed to carry a sword. It's not new. The hilt is cracked, the blade chipped, but it's yours. You sleep with it beside you, blade tucked in a cloth to keep it dry. Not that dryness exists on this ship, everything is damp, even your dreams. You start to recognize rhythms. Who wakes early, who sings in their sleep, who cheats at dice. You know which barrel has drinkable water, and which has something that probably started as soup, and now glows faintly. There's laughter sometimes. On quiet nights they tell stories about cursed treasure and sea monsters, about ghost ships and cursed coins. One man swears he saw a mermaid once, another insists it was just a walrus with nice eyes. Historians still debate whether some pirates genuinely believed these tales or told them to scare newcomers. Either way, the stories linger. And then there's your nickname. Every pirate gets one eventually. Maybe it's something cool, Black Blade or Red Jack. Maybe it's less cool, Snail, Blister, Teacup. Yours is Shivers. No explanation. Just a name someone muttered after you flinched during cannon cleaning. It sticks, and you grow into it. Weeks bleed into months. You stop thinking about land. The idea of walking on unmoving ground feels unnatural now. Your feet adapt to the role of the ship. Your stomach too, mostly. You're no longer the recruit. Now it's someone else. A shaky kid named Ewan, who keeps dropping things and asks too many questions. You help him once, when he nearly falls from the rigging. He stares at you like you're a hero. You laugh and hand him a rope. Keep your feet wide, you say, and never eat anything Jory offers if he's smiling. The captain eyes you from time to time, not suspicious. More calculating. You're proving yourself, and that means choices will come. Bigger risks, maybe command. But for now, you sit near the prow, watching the moon shimmer over the water like a coin just out of reach. You think about your old life, barely a memory now. You think about the oath you swore and the crew you've bled with. This is your world now. The sea doesn't care who you used to be. It only knows what you are. Pirate. The ship groans as morning rises, its planks stretching and settling like the bones of something ancient and tired. You wake up already hungry. Not in the poetic, dreamy way of a traveller seeking adventure, but in the very real, stomach-shrinking ache that pirates live with every single day. Hunger is more reliable than the tides. It comes on schedule, always punctual, always inconvenient. Your first destination, the galley. If galley conjures up images of chefs in tall white hats and glistening pans, erase that thought immediately. This is more of a blackened hole in the lower deck where smoke hangs low and the cook swears louder than the cannon crew. It smells of old fish, burning fat, and sometimes disturbingly socks. This morning's delicacy, hardtack. Again. You pick up the biscuit, knock it twice against the edge of a barrel and listen to the thud. If it makes a solid clonk, it's probably still edible. If it crumbles like dust, you toss it overboard for the gulls. They usually ignore it. Hardtack is simple. Flour, water, baked into bricks, and left to age like terrible wine. You learn quickly to break it with a blade or soak it in rum, otherwise you risk breaking a tooth. Some of the older pirates swear they've been eating the same batch for 5 years. You believe them. To chase it down, there's something loosely referred to as stew. It's a catch-all term, really. If it's hot, wet and brown, it's stew. Some days it includes salt pork, other days bits of dried pea. Once, there was a small, unmistakable beak floating in yours. You didn't ask questions, you just ate around it. Rum is the real breakfast, served sparingly unless it's a celebration or someone's trying to bribe the crew into forgetting a mistake. Pirates didn't drink rum just for the buzz, it was safer than the water. Fresh water didn't last long at sea, stored in wooden barrels that grew slimy and foul within weeks. Mixing it with alcohol made it just tolerable enough to swallow. Historians still argue whether this was a genuine health strategy or just a convenient excuse to start the day drunk. If the ship was lucky enough to dock recently, or raid a supply boat, you might get fresh fruit, a rare luxury, or cheese, which usually comes wrapped in mould like a wool coat. No one throws it away. The mouldy bits are scraped off, and what's left is savoured. Cheese that doesn't move on its own is considered good cheese. Protein? Salted meat. Often beef or pork, though whether it's truly either is a matter of debate. You once saw the cook haul out a hunk of meat the size of a barrel, greenish around the edges and wrapped in waxy cloth. He smiled. That was not comforting. On especially lean voyages, rats become part of the menu. Some pirates actually prefer them, claiming rat stew has a kind of richness. You tried it once. It tasted like panic and old socks, but hunger is a persuasive argument, and you'd be surprised how well desperation can season a meal. Then there's breadworms. Not a dish, an ingredient. Hardtack often comes with its own squirming guests. Most of the crew simply taps the biscuit, lets the worms crawl out, and eats the rest. A few eat them anyway, extra protein. You're not there yet. But it's not all misery. Every so often something strange or special finds its way into the pot. A stolen spice tin, a dried lemon, a lump of sugar the size of a fist, passed down like treasure until it dissolves into someone's mug. These moments are rare, but they're sacred. A single cinnamon stick in the stew can turn the mood of the whole crew. Still, meals are fast. There's no lounging or long conversations. You eat standing, squatting, leaning. You eat in silence, except for the chewing, the slurping, and the occasional insult flung between crewmates. Then it's back to work. The ocean doesn't pause for digestion. On longer voyages, the diet gets more desperate. Scurvy looms. You've heard the stories. Swollen gums, bruises that bloom like flowers, teeth dropping out mid-sentence. Fresh citrus helps, but lemons and limes don't last long in the hold. When they're gone, everyone just pretends they're fine, until they're not. Some ships carried vinegar to stave off illness. Others tried dried herbs, or brewing strange teas from bark. One crew you met swore by drinking seawater in tiny doses to retrain the body. That ship later sank, possibly unrelated. One man kept a dried orange peel in his pocket, sniffing it before meals like a talisman. You once caught him whispering to it. You didn't ask. The cook's assistant is a quiet woman named Nell, who sharpens her knives more than she uses them. She never speaks during meals, but always hums, low and tuneless, like she's warding off spirits. Someone once joked that she cooked a rival sailor into the stew. No one laughed. Meals aren't always peaceful. Fights break out over rations. Once, a man drew a dagger because someone took the last scoop of beans. The beans were mostly gravel at that point, but it didn't matter. It was the principle. That's why the quartermaster oversees rationing. His word is law. He holds the key to the hold where salted meat, biscuits, dried beans and liquor are kept under lock. Stealing from it isn't just frowned upon, it's punishable by lashing, or worse. Food is survival, and theft of it is betrayal. Some nights, if spirits are high, you get a treat. Roasted fish caught fresh, or coconuts hacked open on deck. Once there was a cake, if you can call it that, made from crushed biscuit, molasses and dried fruit. It was dense enough to be a weapon, but sweet enough to feel like a miracle. Food becomes more than sustenance. It's currency, a bribe, a reward, a punishment. One night, A man who fouled up during a raid was made to eat the stew's leftovers, the watery skim that clung to the pot, full of floating skin and ash. No one laughed. They just watched silently as he chewed with his eyes closed. You learn quickly to eat fast, hide scraps, and never ever complain about what's served. The cook remembers, and grudges like stew only thicken with time. The mess area is also where stories happen. A man chews slowly as he tells of a sea witch who cursed his spoon. Another claims he once ate shark liver raw and could see in the dark for a week. You listen with half an ear, more focused on licking the last smear of grease from your tin bowl. And sometimes, food is the start of chaos. A crew once mutinied because the cook kept feeding them the same stew for 2 weeks. They tied him to the mast and forced him to eat his own creation, bowl after bowl, until he cried. Then they forgave him. He never served that stew again. There's a strange ritual to it all. In a world where almost everything is uncertain, wind, waves, battle, food is the one constant. No matter what, the cook will bang his ladle against the pot. The crew will line up, bowls in hand. The meal will be hot or not, tasty or terrible. But it will happen. Every meal is a shared moment, a strange kind of communion, even the ones you want to forget. And sometimes food is a marker of place. When docked in a pirate haven, you get flavours you forgot existed. Spiced rice, roasted goat, pickled eggs, pineapples so ripe they drip. You gorge, of course. Everyone does. Then you get sick. Then you do it again. The taste of land-based cooking is bittersweet. It reminds you of what you're missing. It also reminds you why you're at sea. Because even the best shore meal comes with the risk of capture, betrayal, or being recognised by someone you wronged. One older sailor tells you about a tavern stew in Morocco that made him cry. Not because it was spicy, but because it tasted like his childhood. He hasn't tasted anything like it in 20 years. He sighs and dips his spoon into this morning's offering. Lukewarm broth with something gelatinous floating in it. Not quite the same, he says. You nod. It's never the same. And yet, somehow the terrible meals are part of what bonds you all. Shared suffering, shared disgust. You once locked eyes with a crewmate across the table, both of you chewing slowly, both knowing exactly how bad it tasted, and you both burst into laughter. A single, precious moment of joy born from horror. You keep a secret stash now. Everyone does. A sliver of dried fruit, a bit of honey wrapped in cloth, a chunk of cheese you traded a button for. You hide it deep in your hammock or sew it into your coat. It's not just food, it's hope, packed into a crust. Because when you're eating in the middle of nowhere, when your lips crack from salt and your hands shake from hunger, hope tastes like sweetness. Even if it's hard, even if it's mouldy, even if it's just a bite, that's how pirates ate. Not well, but fiercely, together. You stand at the edge of the lower deck, arms crossed, watching your shirt drip dry from where you tried to wash it in seawater. It still stinks, less like sweat now, more like seaweed. But in this world, that's practically perfume. You've been on the ship long enough to know this truth. Fashion among pirates isn't about vanity. It's about survival, identity, utility, and sometimes a touch of absurdity. Your clothes are soaked, patched, and deeply offended by the concept of clean. They weren't made for glamour. They were made to last. But every piece tells a story. A frayed sash tied around the waist. Might have once held a sword. A loose sleeve torn at the cuff. Could have snagged on the rigging during a storm or a skirmish. You start your day getting dressed as if preparing for a small war. Everything you wear has to survive salt, sweat, rope burn, knife fights, sudden downpours, fire, and boredom. And maybe, if you're lucky, it'll also survive you. Let's begin with the shirt. It's usually linen or coarse cotton, often stolen, traded or found floating near a wreck. It's baggy by necessity. Tight clothes are a hazard when climbing rigging or running along slick decks. The loose fit lets air move, and if it's ever torn during battle, it won't take your arm with it. You roll the sleeves past your elbows and tie them off. A frayed cord does the trick. Trousers? wide at the hips, cinched at the knee, baggy like a deflated balloon, easier to move in. They're patched, faded, and stained with a constellation of unknown liquids. Once they were blue. Now they're ship-coloured, a mix of grey, brown, and hopelessness. Some pirates prefer shorts, hacked off with knives depending on the heat. Others wear kilts or wraps stolen from tropical villages. There are no uniforms, just personality sewn one stitch at a time. And then there's the footwear, if any. Many go barefoot. It's easier to grip the deck and shoes rot quickly in seawater. But those who do wear them often prefer sturdy leather boots. High, sometimes folded down at the top, filled with sand, secret knives, or both. If you're lucky, you find a matching pair. If not, you pretend mismatched is a trend and keep walking. Belts and sashes are essential. One holds up your trousers, the other carries your identity. That crimson sash wrapped 3 times around your middle. It's a fashion choice and a survival kit. Tucked inside, flint, tinder, a spare knife, possibly a few stolen coins. A green ribbon tied to your belt might mean you served in the Caribbean. A purple one? Maybe you raided a noblewoman's wardrobe for fun. Accessories on a pirate ship are clues. The crew reads them like stories. Headwear is where things get truly interesting. A bandana is practical. It keeps sweat out of your eyes and holds back your hair. But some wear tricorn hats, wide-brimmed monstrosities with faded embroidery and bullet holes. One crewmate, Silks, insists on wearing a feathered bonnet. He says it belonged to a duchess. It's been pecked by gulls twice. He refuses to part with it. Hair is rarely cut. Razors are scarce, and scissors usually go towards sail mending, not style. Long hair can be tied back or braided. Lice? Everyone has them. You stop mentioning it. One sailor claimed to have trained his lice to bite anyone who borrowed his coat. He might not have been joking. Facial hair ranges from the accidental to the theatrical. Some cultivate elaborate moustaches, waxed and curled like they're hosting a duel at noon. Others just let it grow wild, forming a salty mess across their cheeks. Beards become their own entity, named, debated, occasionally braided with beads or bits of gold foil. There's a legend of a pirate who wove live firecrackers into his beard to scare enemies. It didn't end well, but he made an impression. Jewellery plays a large role, not for vanity but for memory and barter. A ring might be stolen, inherited, or forged from melted coin. Earrings? Not just decoration. Many pirates believed a pierced ear could improve eyesight. Others thought gold earrings paid for a proper burial if their body washed ashore. Some wore bones as pendants. Others tied shark teeth around their necks to ward off bad luck. One man had a necklace of human teeth. No one asked questions. Scarves and wraps flutter in the wind, dyed with berries or spices. They're decorative, but also keep out sun, sand, and suspicion. A bright scarf might signal defiance. A black one? Maybe mourning or intimidation. You wear a pale yellow one around your neck. It started as a handkerchief. Now it's a part of you. The more battles a pirate survives, the more their wardrobe becomes mismatched. An eye patch here, a brace on the knee, a crutch carved with notches. Injuries are common, so are makeshift repairs. A torn shirt becomes a bandage. A cracked boot is mended with tar and string. There's creativity in desperation. One sailor fashioned a raincloak from a sailcloth and duck feathers. It worked. Mostly. Weapons are worn like jewellery. A cutlass hangs from your belt, heavy and slightly crooked. A pistol's tucked into your sash, probably primed but unreliable. Knives are hidden everywhere, up sleeves in boots, even sewn into coat linings. The more discreet, the better. You once saw a man pull a dagger from his hat. You didn't ask how it stayed there. But clothing isn't just about survival. It's also armour for the mind. What you wear tells the crew who you are, or at least who you want them to think you are. Flashy coats stolen from officers, breeches trimmed with lace, a noble's corset turned into a vest, that long black cloak trailing behind someone like shadowed wings. It's ridiculous. It's also powerful. Historians still argue whether pirates dressed flamboyantly to intimidate, to amuse, or simply because they could. The truth might be all three. When you live on the edge of life and law, your clothes become rebellion stitched in cloth. Each torn hem says, I'm free. Each mismatched button says, I take what I want. During raids, the wardrobe transforms. A red sash might signal no quarter, no mercy. A bandana over the face hides identity and also keeps out smoke and ash. You dress for fear, not fashion. A dark cloak flutters as you leap from railing to railing. Gold glints from your ear. Your boots slam down, heavy with purpose. Then you return, blood-splattered, breathing hard, clothes torn. You patch, clean, adjust. The cycle repeats. And when a pirate dies, their clothes are often claimed. It's not disrespect. It's practicality. No point letting a good coat sink to the bottom of the sea. You've inherited a vest that belonged to a man with 6 gold teeth and a laugh like thunder. You wear it now, patched and mended, one pocket always sticky for reasons unknown. There's a kind of immortality in pirate clothing. Each piece passes hands, gathers stories. That scarf you wear, it once belonged to a woman who swam 5 miles after her ship sank. That belt might have been worn by a traitor or a hero, maybe both. Clothes don't care, they carry memory without judgment. Occasionally you dock. When you do, fashion gets strange. Pirates show off. Bright colours, silk shirts, gold-threaded coats. You might wear feathers, or boots dyed with squid ink. It's a game. Who can look the most ridiculous while still being deadly? Who can turn the most heads while emptying the most pockets? One night in port you traded 2 brass buttons and a knife sheath for a wide-brimmed hat with 3 silver pins. It was too big. The wind took it 2 days later. You're still bitter. Even among yourselves there are unspoken dress codes. Don't copy the captain. Don't wear anything too clean. It makes people suspicious. And never ever wear bright red if you aren't willing to back it up with blood. Despite everything, there's beauty in it. A kind of ragged elegance. The way a torn coat flutters in wind like a battle flag. The way the sunset catches on the gold tooth of a smiling sunburned pirate. The way colour returns to life in a world soaked in grey. And sometimes, when the sea is calm and the wind soft, you catch your reflection in the blade of your knife. You don't recognise the person staring back, wild-haired, sunburned, wrapped in stolen silk and stained leather. But they're strong, dangerous, proud. You didn't buy this identity. You stitched it, bled into it, laughed in it, slept in it. Your clothing is your story, and it's still being written. The sun crawls across the sky like a lazy beast, painting the deck in streaks of gold and sweat. Today feels different, not because of a storm or a sighted sail, but because nothing is happening, and that, aboard a pirate ship, is more dangerous than a full-on cannon broadside. When pirates get bored, they get inventive, and when they get inventive, someone usually ends up with a bruised jaw, or a new tattoo they don't remember agreeing to. You've begun to understand what passes for a typical day in piracy, which is to say, there is no such thing. Every day brings its own version of strange, from rat races on the upper deck to an unexpected midnight argument about whether seagulls are secretly spies. But there's a rhythm to the madness, a daily routine, stitched together by necessity and rope. First, there's the morning work, cleaning, coiling, patching, repairing. Sails must be checked, lines tightened, deck scrubbed. Scrubbing's important, not for hygiene. No one expects the deck to sparkle, but to stop the build-up of salt and slime that could turn the floor into a deadly skating rink. Everyone has a job, and if they don't, the bosun finds one for them. You're on rope duty today. You spend 2 hours recoiling the rigging line someone knotted into what looked like an obscene animal. Your fingers blister, your back cramps. You don't complain. There's always someone watching, always a crewmate silently tallying who's pulling their weight and who's not. Reputation is earned in tiny, thankless tasks like these. Later, you're sent to help with the sails. You climb slowly, your legs gripping the ropes while the ship rocks beneath you. Up here, the world is wind and canvas. You can see for miles. The sea is endless, beautiful, dangerous. You spot nothing today, Just the horizon, a promise that something's always just out of reach. Below, the crew mills about, trying to fill the dead space between meals and work with anything that doesn't involve mutiny. Dice come out, not official ones. These are bone dice carved roughly, pips stained with ink or blood. You join a quick game, lose a copper coin, win 2, then lose 1 again. The point isn't winning, it's distraction. Gambling is the pirate pastime, though the stakes vary. Coin, rum, knife sharpening, or I get to wear your hat until sundown. Then comes music. Someone pulls out a battered fiddle. Another hums a sea shanty. A drum made from an old barrel keeps time. Music on a pirate ship isn't just for fun, it's morale. It fills the space between violence and starvation. You clap along, the rhythm settling into your bones. For a moment, things feel almost warm. Stories follow. Pirates love telling stories almost as much as they love lying. Tales of sunken ships, haunted islands, royal treasure guarded by skeletons. One old sailor swears he once ate a fish that sang before it died. Another claims he met Neptune during a dive and wrestled him for gold. No one believes any of it, but no one stops him either. You hear about the silent ship, a vessel that drifts without crew, its lanterns glowing green. They say if you board it, you disappear. Someone says they saw it near the Bahama Channel. Someone else insists it was just fog and too much rum. No one laughs. Afternoons bring repairs. There's always something broken. A railing that snapped in last week's storm. A gun port that won't close. Nails pulled from one end of the ship are hammered into another. It's a floating patchwork miracle. You once saw the carpenter fix a hole using a boot heel and wax. It worked. You learn tricks, like how to seal a crack in the hull with tar and cloth, or how to fake being sick to avoid latrine duty, though that only works once. The cook assigns you to fishhook straightening. You have no idea why they're all bent. Probably because pirates like stabbing things they're not supposed to. There's a brawl mid-afternoon, not serious. 2 pirates arguing over who saw the dolphin pod first. It escalates into some shoving, a thrown potato, and one very loud sneeze. No weapons drawn. It ends when someone farts so loudly everyone forgets what they were angry about. This is normal. Despite the violence, pirate ships weren't just blood-soaked death traps. They were floating societies, ruled by their own strange codes. You learn how to read moods, when to speak, when to vanish, when to offer your ration of dried mango to the quartermaster's angry parrot. Small things that keep you alive. Later, you head below deck. Hammocks sway gently. Someone's asleep. Someone else is carving initials into the wood. You recognize them as yours. You don't ask. You lie back, close your eyes, and listen to the creaks of wood and sea. Rest never lasts. A sudden call from above. Sails on the horizon. The crew scrambles. It might be a merchant, might be a navy ship, might be nothing. Either way, the calm is gone. Everything shifts. That's pirate life. You bounce between boredom and chaos like a swing with broken ropes. Evening falls. The sky bleeds orange. Dinner is the usual mess. Salt pork, boiled beans, something green you don't trust. Still, you eat. Then come the odd rituals. Some pirates carve notches in the mast for every ship they've raided. Others whisper to the sea before sleep, asking it to let them wake. One man writes messages to his dead brother in the logbook. No one stops him. There's laughter too, crude jokes, impressions of the captain. Someone draws a face on a coconut and gives it a name. Captain Stabsy. It becomes a crew member for a week until someone throws it overboard during an argument. You start to understand the strange intimacy of pirate life. You know what everyone's feet smell like. You've seen someone cry over a broken knife. You've helped sew a ripped coat with twine and swear words. One night during a calm watch, an older sailor tells you about the time he saw St. Elmo's fire. A glowing light dancing along the mast during a storm. The sea spirits, he said. They visit when death is close. You ask if he was scared. He shrugs. Nah, I offered them rum. Historians still debate whether the daily rhythm of pirate life resembled military routine or anarchist improvisation. The truth feels like both. Structured chaos. Everyone knows what needs doing. No one's quite sure how it gets done. There's little privacy. You wash with a bucket, relieve yourself off the stern. You sleep inches from people who might rob you or save your life. And yet, it works. You mark the passing days by stars and moon, not calendars. Time slips. You forget what day it is, what month. Doesn't matter. You're not bound to clocks anymore. You start to cherish the small moments. That one time someone sang a lullaby they barely remembered from childhood. The gull that landed on the captain's head and stayed there. Just stayed. The way everyone went silent when lightning struck the sea in 3 perfect forks. The night you all howled like wolves just to hear the echo bounce off the cliffs. This is your life now. You climb, scrub, fight, laugh, eat, gamble, dream, drift. Every day is the same. Every day is different. And you wouldn't trade it for land if it begged you. Not because it's perfect, but because it's yours. You wake with a jolt, not from a nightmare, but from the unmistakable boom of cannon testing. No battle, not yet. Just the gunners having their morning fun, checking for misfires, tightening bolts, making sure the powder's dry and the barrels still breathe fire. The smell of smoke curls through the planks. You cough, rub your eyes, and swing your legs out of the hammock, landing with a thud on a floor that already feels warm from the rising sun. Today's work, you can tell, is going to be all about the ship's teeth, those lovely, ugly weapons that keep everything in motion. Fighting is a pirate's second language. The first is survival. And while some pirates may go entire months without a real sea battle, the ship never forgets that it's a war machine. Today, your hands won't be mending sails or fetching stew. They'll be learning the shape and weight of the weapons you'll use when steel and splinters start to fly. You start below deck. The gun deck is dark and smells of salt, blood and old grease. Cannon rows line the port and starboard like sleeping dragons, iron mouths gaping. Most are short range, smaller than navy guns but faster to load, easier to aim when the sea rolls. They're named, of course, every one of them. Black Sister, Old Spitter, Judith, Bone Howler. One is simply called Sorry. You do not ask why. Powder monkeys, usually younger boys or smaller crewmates nimble enough to dart between legs, are already shoving barrels and flasks into the tiny gaps between guns. Their job? To feed these beasts with powder charges during battle. It's dangerous. The smallest spark can light a flash that sends bodies flying across the deck. You nod to one lad named Pick. His eyebrows are gone. He grins at you like that's funny. Today you're on cannon drill. It's a dance. Load, ram, prime, fire, sponge, repeat. You're handed a long ramrod and shown how to jab it into the barrel after the powder charge and the cannonball. Not too fast, not too hard, unless you want a spark to kiss your face. You learn to lean sideways when lighting the fuse, so if it kicks back, it doesn't catch your chest. It's loud. Even without real shots, the drills echo through the ship like thunder trapped in a bottle. The smell clings to your clothes. Your ears ring. But you feel it. The adrenaline. The purpose. You're not just existing. You're preparing. Up top, other weapons are being cleaned and honed. The armoury is a rough wooden box tucked near the stern, barely big enough for 2 people to stand in. It houses swords, axes, pistols, muskets, pikes, boarding hooks, even nets. Yes, nets. For yanking sailors off opposing ships like fish from a stream. You're handed a cutlass. It's dull, rusty and heavier than it looks. A real fighter would already be reshaping the blade, but you're still learning. You practice swings, wide arcs, close jabs, the infamous hook and yank that pirates use to pull someone in before stabbing them low. No one fights clean. No one waits for your guard to be ready. Nearby, the ship's gunner, known only as Karth, sharpening his knives on a whetstone. He doesn't talk much except to his weapons. He murmurs to them, lovingly, like they're children or dangerous pets. You once heard him whispering to a flintlock pistol while stroking its barrel like a cat. When you asked if it worked well, he replied, "She bites louder than she barks." You stepped back. Pirates fight dirty, always have, always will. In close quarters, guns are good for one shot. After that, You draw steel, or teeth, or boots. One veteran named Brine tells you how he once won a duel by slamming a spoon down someone's throat. You assume he's joking. Then you see the spoon on his belt sharpened to a nasty curve. Axes are another favourite. Light, fast, lethal. Perfect for hacking at ropes or splitting helmets. The carpenter makes a few boarding axes each month. Short-handled things with crescent blades. He paints small faces on each one. Gives them spirit, he says. You nod and move on. You're also introduced to grenados. Small iron bombs filled with powder and nasty little nails or stones. Light, throw, duck. That's the method. There's a crate of them lashed to the mast, marked with chalk skulls. You're warned not to touch unless ordered. One pirate, Toad, ignores that once. Now he has fewer fingers. Practice continues. You're pushed into a circle on deck. Wooden swords. No protection. The older crewmates test your reflexes, laughing when you stumble, shouting advice that's half nonsense. Lead with your elbow. Bite their belt. Always aim for the left kneecap, you take bruises. Earn respect. There's strategy too. You're taught how pirates approach enemy ships, not in clean rows like a navy, but in swift, chaotic sweeps. Hit fast. Climb faster. Grappling hooks fly from your deck, anchoring the ships together like lovers or prey. Then it's boarding, swinging across ropes, scrambling over rails, shouting, slashing. You hear the word melee, and it makes your stomach tighten. Pirates didn't fight in rows. They fought in heaps. Steel flashing, blood spraying, boots slipping on wet boards. You train for that. You practice grabbing an opponent's wrist with one hand and stabbing under the arm with the other. You learn to use knees, elbows, headbutts. Your goal isn't style, it's survival. Some carry bucklers, small round shields, often painted with crude symbols. One has a fish with knives for fins. Another says mum in elegant cursive. Shields aren't common, but for close combat they're useful. Most pirates prefer two weapons, a blade and a backup. Knife and pistol, axe and hook, fist and fury, and always hidden blades. One sailor opens his coat to reveal 6 throwing knives strapped inside, each with a name scratched into the handle. She sings, he says, tossing one into a crate with a perfect thunk. You check your pockets. You have a spoon. For now it'll do. Then there's the peculiar, less conventional tools. One woman, Sally Spitfire, carries a pouch of powdered chili pepper. During boarding, she'll blow it into someone's eyes before kicking them overboard. Another man uses a slingshot and carries sharpened nails in a pouch at his hip. Not deadly, but distracting. And that's often all you need. The quartermaster gives you a personal task, caring for your blade. You're handed a cloth, a stone, a jar of oil that smells like smoked oranges. She'll keep you alive, he says, nodding at the sword. If you keep her fed, you don't ask what he means, you just start polishing. Night falls and training ends, but the weapons stay close. No one sleeps far from steel. Pistols under pillows, daggers beside hammocks. A few crew sleep in their boots. Not because they expect a fight, but because if one starts, they won't waste a second. You share a hammock row with a man who sleeps holding a hatchet like a teddy bear. Another ties a rope to his wrist and loops the other end around the mast. So if the ship is boarded, he'll be tugged awake by the chaos. Pirate dreams are not gentle ones. You dream of fire, flashing steel, falling through smoke. You wake sweating. You check your blade. Still there. Still sharp. Historians still argue whether pirates were truly skilled fighters or just lucky thugs with loud weapons. But you know the truth now. They trained. They planned. They practiced dirty tricks and made sure their pistols fired true. They knew that every swing might be the last, so they made it count. You spend the next morning learning to reload a musket while running. It's difficult. Powder spills. The ramrod sticks. You nearly shoot your own foot. The gunners clap politely anyway. You watch as 2 crewmates duel, one with a sabre, the other with a boarding hook and shield. The match ends when the shield wielder throws sand into the other's eyes and then taps his chest with the blunt end of the hook. Dead, he says. No one argues. Later you practice with boarding spikes, long, pointed rods meant to pry open doors or pin enemies against masts. Heavy, awkward, terrifying. You miss a swing and dent a barrel. The cook yells. You apologize. There's also the defense lessons, how to parry, dodge, roll. One drill involves standing still while someone swings a stick at you very slowly. You're meant to sidestep. You fail 3 times. By the 4th, you begin to move like water, not stone. A crewmate offers you advice. If it feels wrong, duck. You thank him. You get hit again anyway. It goes on for weeks. Muscle memory builds. Your fingers stop trembling when you load a pistol. You learn to breathe before you swing. You practice stabbing with both hands in case one's injured. You keep a knife in your boot, in your sleeve, under your hat, just in case. You still lose. Often. But now you lose better. Smarter. One evening, a merchant ship is spotted. Small, unarmed, slow. The captain decides to spare it. No need to waste powder. You watch it drift past. You're disappointed. A little. But also ready. Because when the next fight comes, you'll be armed. Not just with weapons, but with skill, with instinct, with the knowledge that when the steel sings and the deck runs red, you'll be more than a pirate, you'll be a fighter. The wind dies somewhere in the middle of the night, and the silence that follows feels heavier than a storm. You wake not to the usual symphony of creaking ropes and slapping sails, but to a stillness that presses against your chest like a warning. The sea is flat as glass. The ship drifts, becalmed. It isn't fear, not exactly. Pirates live with fear the way most people live with their shadows. But a windless sea carries its own kind of dread. You rise, groggy, climb onto deck and immediately sense the change. The usual noise is missing. Voices are hushed. Even the gulls have gone quiet, circling far above like distant omens. The air is thick, hot, heavy. The sun rises like a molten coin, and there's no wind to move it along. The sails hang limp, motionless. The crew drips with sweat. Shirts are soaked through, tempers shorter than a pistol fuse. This is the kind of weather that starts fights and hallucinations. You've heard the stories, ships stranded for weeks, crewmates growing paranoid, drinking seawater, speaking to shadows. One man once swore he saw his dead brother playing cards on the mainmast. Another watched the sea and insisted it was staring back. The quartermaster calls for rationing. Without movement, water supplies will dwindle. Food will rot faster in this heat. Already the bread is softening, and the salted pork smells suspicious. You take your tin mug and sip the daily water, warm, metallic, unsatisfying. And so begins the waiting. You're assigned to deck patrol not for security, but to keep people busy. Boredom is dangerous. You keep an eye on the horizon, though nothing moves but the sun. At your feet, the planks are almost too hot to touch. Above, the sails dangle uselessly, looking like old skin. The carpenter blames sea spirits. He ties feathers to the mast and mutters in Spanish. Another pirate lights incense and sings an off-key hymn to Madam Wind. You don't question it. At this point, you'd offer a sacrifice if you thought it would stir a breeze. Afternoons become unbearable. The air feels like a wool blanket soaked in sweat. Shirts come off, fights flare. One man accuses another of looking at him wrong. A scuffle breaks out over a spoon. The captain intervenes, quiet and deadly. She doesn't shout. She just places a pistol on the table and says, "Solve it or don't." They shut up. You spend your downtime in the shade under a lifeboat turned sideways. You read an old note someone carved into the hull. "Tell the sea I'm still here." You trace it with your finger, wondering who wrote it, and whether they still are. With nothing to do, some pirates start fishing. They toss lines lazily overboard, not because they're hungry, but because it gives them purpose. You watch one man, silent and still, until he pulls up something long and silver. A barracuda, teeth flashing. It stares at him. He stares back. Then he throws it overboard. The cook is less poetic. He tries to grill dried eel on a shovel over a lantern. It smells like someone lit a boot on fire. You eat it anyway. Then comes the storm. Not a dramatic one, not at first. It starts with a single cloud on the horizon. dark and round like a bruise. The air shifts. You feel it before you see it. Just the faintest breeze, enough to make the ropes twitch. A breath. And then wind. The sails flap to life. The crew erupts into action. You leap from your spot and help unfurl the mainsail. Orders fly. The ship groans like it's waking from a nightmare. But wind doesn't come alone. The sky darkens. Clouds roll fast, too fast. Thunder grumbles. Rain slaps the sea in sheets. Lightning forks in the distance, and the captain shouts something you can't hear over the roar. You secure the barrels, tie off the ropes, double-check the powder stores. No one wants a flash fire. The ship begins to rock harder, steeper. Water slams over the railings. You hold tight, blinking through the downpour. Then the real wave hits. It rises like a wall, tall as the mast, shadowing the deck before crashing down. You're tossed like a rag doll, slammed into a barrel, sliding across slick boards. Screams around you. A sail snaps with a sound like bones breaking. You scramble upright. Blood trickles from your scalp, but you're alive. You grab a rope, haul yourself to the main mast, and help cut the loose sail before it takes someone with it. Rain lashes your face. Salt stings your eyes. Lightning flashes, and for a moment everything is white. Then it passes. As fast as it came, the storm dies, the sky clears. The sun peeks out like a guilty child. The crew regathers, soaked, bruised, exhausted. One man is missing. You search for him, but he's gone, swept overboard. The captain marks his name with a line on a scrap of parchment and pockets it. No words. You repair what you can, patch the sail, mop the deck, reset the lines. The sea is calmer now, but you're shaken. In the quiet afterward, you sit with the rest of the crew near the stern. Someone starts humming. You sip rum. It's the best thing you've tasted all day. That night, a strange peace settles. You lie in your hammock, listening to the creak of wood and the soft breath of the ship moving again. It's like the storm never happened. Except it did. Your ribs still ache. The bruises prove it. And then comes the fever. Not yours, at first. Another crewmate, young, pale, sweating. He mumbles in his sleep. His breath smells wrong, sweet and sharp like rotting fruit. He shakes, convulses, mutters things you don't understand. Illness is the sea's quiet killer. No battles, no noise, just creeping death. You move him below, wrap him in blankets, sponge his forehead. The captain orders isolation. She's seen this before. If he dies, she says, burn the hammock. 2 more fall sick the next day. The cook refuses to touch the stew. The crew stops gambling. Laughter dries up. And yet life continues. You work, clean, repair, row. The sea won't wait. One night, you see something in the water, glowing. Not a ship, not a fish. Something blue, floating like a ghost. You blink. It's gone. You ask someone. They shrug. Seas full of strange, they say. Some believe it's the spirits of the drowned. Others say it's just plankton. Historians still argue whether pirate superstition helped or hindered morale. Whether it kept them sane or pushed them over the edge. You're not sure anymore. You dream of fire, of sinking, of being pulled into the dark by pale hands. You wake gasping, hand on your knife. The sick man dies. No ceremony. He's wrapped in sailcloth, weighed with stones and dropped overboard. The sea takes him silently. That night the wind picks up, steady, gentle. You feel it on your cheek like a lullaby. The crew starts singing again, slowly, carefully. You spot dolphins again. A good sign, they say. Means someone's watching over us. You don't know if it's true, but you watch them jump, slicing the waves like silver thoughts, and you believe, for just a moment, that maybe the sea forgives. You go back to your hammock. It still smells like salt and mould and damp rope. But tonight, it also smells like survival, and that's enough. The sun rises behind clouds, casting the deck in a gentle grey that softens the sharp corners of the ship. You stretch your arms above your head, and breathe in the scent of damp wood, stale salt and smoke. But something else hangs in the air this morning. Something heavier. The ship is quiet, not from exhaustion or storm, but anticipation. You've heard whispers for days now. There's a prize near. A fat merchant ship or perhaps a poorly guarded transport ripe for taking. The crew is restless, but no one sharpens blades or checks pistols just yet. First, there's something more sacred to see to: the rules. Because for all the chaos and grime, this ship runs on law. Not the king's law, not a nation's decree, but your law, the articles, the pirate code. It's time to revisit the deal you made the day you joined. The captain and quartermaster call everyone to the main deck. A scrap of parchment is unrolled, frayed and grease-stained, the ink smudged in places, but the words are still legible. These are not lofty speeches or legal babble, they're blunt, sharp as steel. No stealing from crewmates, no cheating at dice, equal shares of plunder, obey battle orders, no brawling below deck, lights out at 8 bells. If you're caught sneaking an extra ration, you lose your share. Caught stealing from the loot chest? Marooned. Or worse. It sounds strict. That's because it is. Pirates lived wild but not lawless. You need rules when you live in close quarters with armed, hungry people and a limited supply of food and mercy. One clause draws a murmur. Any man injured in service will be compensated from the general fund. Lose a hand, get 100 silver. Lose a leg, 200. A tooth? That depends on the tooth. The articles act as both law and insurance. The code is not just punishment, it's protection. Another clause: no bringing women aboard. Some ships allowed it, others didn't. The rationale varies, from superstition to sheer practicality. Historians still argue whether it was about avoiding love triangles or avoiding jealous knife fights. Both happened anyway. Disputes are settled by vote or by duel. You remember that. One crewmate, called Rooster, once challenged another to a duel over hammock space. They fought with spoons. The loser slept in the galley for a week and walked with a limp ever since. Voting is key. It's how the captain is chosen, how courses are plotted, how loot is split. And if the captain loses the crew's trust, she can be voted out. No coronation, no ceremony, just a shrug and a new voice at the helm. That's why captains listen. Not because they're afraid of mutiny, but because they know it's always possible. You glance around during the reading. Some pirates nod solemnly, others grin. You notice a new recruit fidgeting nervously. He doesn't yet understand that this isn't just formality. This is the glue holding everything together. The meeting ends with a loud thud, the captain's boot against the mast. Next prize we see, she says. We vote at sunset, full share or quarter haul, no whining. And that's where things get interesting. Loot isn't just taken, it's divided. Carefully. The promise of gold gets you on the ship. The fairness of the split is what keeps you here. Every crewmate gets a share, called a part. The captain usually gets 2. The quartermaster the same. Officers a bit more. Powder monkeys and new blood a bit less. But everyone gets something. It's more than most sailors ever saw under a flag. You remember your first share, a few coins, a brooch, and half a gold earring. You traded the brooch for boots. You still have the earring, now tied to your belt like a charm. There's a reason pirates were so feared, not just for their violence, but for their fairness. In a world where kings bled peasants dry and navies paid in gruel and promises, pirates offered a clear contract. Risk your neck and you get a cut. No tricks, no lords, just the loot. The treasure itself could be anything. Gold, silver, spices, sugar, fabrics, tobacco. Even mundane things like rope, nails, medical supplies, or hats. You once raided a ship carrying nothing but candles. For weeks after, every dinner felt like a birthday. Today you inspect the ship's lockbox, where the loot is stored before it's divided. The quartermaster unlocks it with a key tied to his neck. Inside, a few velvet pouches, some tangled jewellery, a goblet and 2 unfamiliar coins stamped with strange runes. No one knows where they're from. Someone suggests they're cursed. Someone else licks one. Tastes expensive, they say. You help take inventory. Everything is recorded in a crude logbook. Every coin, every ring. Pirates may be thieves, but among themselves, theft is unforgivable. Touching that lockbox without permission is asking for a knife in the spine, or worse, trial by crew. Trial is rare, but it happens. You've seen one. A man accused of hiding gold in his boot. The evidence, his sudden purchase of 2 parrots and a silk vest in port. The crew held a vote. Guilty. His punishment? 50 lashes and a reduced share. He didn't complain. He knew the rules. Some ships were even more brutal. Keel hauling, marooning, forced silence. Historians debate whether these punishments were common or just terrifying myths, but you've heard enough tales to believe they could happen. You remember the story of Laughing Pete, a pirate who pocketed a ruby and denied it. They didn't kill him. They shaved his head, painted his scalp with tar and renamed him Shiny. He served 5 more years, head glistening in the sun, until he finally jumped ship. No one stopped him. Justice on a pirate ship isn't always fair, but it's always public. Every sentence, every dispute, every punishment happens in full view. It's accountability by spectacle. By mid-afternoon, the lookout calls down, "Sail!" The crew rushes to the rail. You squint into the sun. Yes, there it is. A merchant ship, small but loaded deep in the water, cargo heavy. No escort in sight. The crew doesn't cheer, not yet. First comes the vote. The captain gathers everyone on deck. She lays out the options. We take it full force, guns, boarding, fast grab. Or we fake distress, lure them close, and pick their bones slow. Riskier, might net more. A hand count is called. You raise your hand for the full force option, quick and clean. Others choose the slower trick. It's close. The captain listens, then nods. Full force it is. And that's that. No arguments, no pouting. The vote is final. The ship adjusts course. Sails tighten, cannons loaded, blades sharpened. The articles have spoken. You feel the energy shift. The rules are not just ink on paper, they're the engine. They decide when you fight, how you live, what you eat, and who walks the plank. There's one clause you still think about sometimes. The one about retirement. It promises, vaguely, that any pirate who earns enough can leave the life. Start a farm, buy a tavern, disappear. It sounds like a fairy tale. You've never met anyone who actually did it. Still, you've seen pirates squirrel away coins under hammocks, hide rings in false panels, bury gold on quiet islands. The dream of freedom is always there, tied to the idea that maybe, just maybe, you'll get out before the sea gets you. But first, you have to survive. The ship picks up speed. The crew falls into formation. Grappling hooks are prepped, pistols primed. The captain stands at the helm, coat billowing. You're not thinking about gold or justice anymore. You're thinking about the moment when rules vanish and all that remains is the scream of steel and the taste of salt and sweat. But after that, when the guns quiet down, the articles will still be there, waiting. It doesn't matter if you're drifting under a boiling sun or hunched against a rain-lashed railing. There's a pressure in the air that has nothing to do with weather. It's the tension of too many souls on too small a patch of wood, all with knives, secrets, and a hunger for the next coin or chance. This isn't the kind of democracy they teach in school. This is the political jungle of a pirate ship, and you're living in it. The first thing you notice about pirate politics is that rank doesn't mean safety. The captain holds command, yes, but only as long as the crew agrees to follow. If trust wavers, even a little, that power shifts, sometimes quietly, sometimes with a knife drawn in the dead of night. Mutiny is always an option, the threat that keeps the system balanced on a razor's edge. But more often than not, it's not open revolt that shakes things up. It's the constant dance of alliances, grudges, and sly negotiations. On land, power is wrapped in gold and land deeds. Here, it's decided over dice, rum, and the way the quartermaster's eyes flick during a vote. You spend your days learning who stands with whom. There's the old hands, the core crew who've survived at least one sinking together. whose loyalty to each other is thicker than blood and rum. Then there are the newcomers, always watched, always tested. Sometimes the old hands welcome a new pirate in, teach them how to sharpen a blade just so, or where the best sleep is to be found. Sometimes they shut them out. The cold shoulder is a warning that lasts longer than any slap. You see small groups gather at dusk, over bowls of stew at the card table, beneath the tangle of rigging, plotting, joking, trading rumours. What happened to last month's prize money? Who's next in line for the captain's ear? Is the boatswain running low on patience or powder? You watch, you listen. You realise that every laugh hides a calculation. The captain is a master of these currents. She holds herself apart, drifting between groups, never staying long enough to let anyone feel too comfortable. Her power is part fear, part respect, and part luck. Her coat is patched at the shoulders, but her boots are new. That's a message, and everyone reads it. She rewards loyalty with extra rum or the first pick from a fresh haul. She punishes betrayal, fast and public. But the captain isn't alone in command. The quartermaster is the balancing force. Sometimes a friend to the captain, sometimes an enemy. Always the voice of the crew. If the captain is the sword, the quartermaster is the scales. He keeps the peace, settles disputes, and handles the loot. You learn quickly. If you want something changed, you bring it to him, not her. He's more approachable, more likely to listen, and less likely to put a pistol to your head. Disagreements break out often, and not just over treasure. Who stands watch? Who gets extra food? Who gets first shot in a raid? These are the politics that matter more than grand speeches or fancy uniforms. You see it everywhere. A glance here, a whispered word there, a sudden silence as you enter a room. Politics is everywhere, and no one is neutral. There's another wrinkle to the social game. Pirate courts. Disputes are sometimes aired before the whole crew, a loud, raucous affair that ends in a vote, a fight, or, once, a tie settled by who could down their rum fastest. If you lose, you pay a share, a promise, a scar. The crew's sense of justice is swift and public, the same as their punishments. One day, a rumour starts that the carpenter has been skimming nails from the loot to trade with fishermen at night. You see how fast it spreads. Murmurs on deck, sideways looks, the cook snickering into his bowl. The carpenter is called up, stands before the mast and explains himself. He doesn't deny it, just shrugs and says, "You want to row this tub with broken oars?" The crew laughs. The quartermaster gives him a warning and life goes on, but the carpenter will be watched closely. On another evening, you witness a deeper kind of betrayal. Two pirates thick as thieves suddenly turn on each other. One accused the other of pocketing a gold ring during the last raid. The argument goes from words to fists, from fists to drawn blades. It's broken up by the captain herself. She orders both men to sleep in the open, no weapons, for a week. The lesson is clear. Loyalty comes first, but justice comes for all. Sometimes alliances form for reasons even the pirates don't understand. A former Navy man and a runaway apprentice team up, sharing stories of old battles and broken dreams. Their laughter is loudest in the dark hours, and somehow it makes the ship feel safer. Other times, an outsider is taken in by accident. A musician, a stowaway, or a cook who knows 100 ways to make beans taste like something else. You never know who will become your next ally or enemy. Pets play their part too. There's a parrot aboard, bright green and with a mouth on it like a sailor's, who everyone swears is the true king of the ship. The bird sits on the quartermaster's shoulder, squawking opinions during votes and occasionally biting anyone who tries to bribe it with a cracker. The parrot once squawked, "Fair shares!" so loudly during a loot argument that the captain conceded the point. Some say it's a sign, others say it's just a very clever bird. Rumours are currency here. One day you hear that the captain has a map to a secret stash. Another day, you hear she's writing letters to a Navy officer in code. You learn to take nothing at face value. The truth is slippery, like fish in a net. Historians still argue whether pirate crews were nests of secrets or tight bands of honesty. The answer, it seems, is both, sometimes in the same hour. The ship's politics come to a boil during moments of crisis. A storm hits, and suddenly all the old grudges vanish. There's no time for plotting when the rigging is tearing itself apart and the deck is washing clean. You see real leadership then, not in orders barked, but in hands steady on the wheel, eyes sharp in the darkness. After the danger passes, the alliances snap back into place, old scores resurface, and the low grumbling starts again. You have your own share of grudges. Someone borrows your boots and returns them full of sand. Another pirate cheats you at dice, then pretends not to know the rules. You let it slide. For now, everyone keeps a list, even if it's only in their head. One day, you might settle it with a joke, or a punch, or a clever trick in the next vote. There's always a risk of mutiny, but more often, politics is about patience and manoeuvring. Waiting for the right moment, backing the right crewmate. You make friends, trade favours, and stay out of the worst arguments. That's how you survive. Pirate politics is also about humour. When things get too tense, someone starts a joke or sings a silly song. Laughter is both shield and sword. You join in, even when you don't feel like it, because laughter keeps the darkness at bay. Occasionally things take a turn for the weird. One crew member claims his hat gives him the power to predict the weather. Another swears the parrot is possessed by the ghost of a long-dead captain. No one argues. If it gets them through another day, let them have their belief. Some alliances are more practical, sleeping near the best fighter or the best cook, or whoever has the driest hammock. Sometimes politics comes down to who shares a blanket or a joke in the dark. Sometimes it's as simple as who offers you an extra crust of bread on a hungry night. But it's not just about who you know. It's about being useful. If you want power, you have to earn it. Fix something. Win a fight. Tell a story that makes everyone laugh so hard they forget they're afraid. Your value to the crew is always being measured, even if no one ever says so. Every once in a while, the captain calls a meeting. Everyone on deck, all voices heard. Decisions are made by a show of hands or a shout. Sometimes the vote is close, and the captain's word decides. Other times the majority rules. It's rough, it's loud, but it works. You remember the last meeting about food stores, who gets what and when. The argument went on for hours, with accusations, jokes, even a brief attempt at arm wrestling for the final say. In the end, the parrot squawked, "Feed me first!" and everyone laughed, and the tension broke. That's how things work here. Chaos and comedy, fear and family, all tangled up in the same ropes. And through it all there are legends. Stories of ships where democracy ran so deep even the rats had a vote. Of pirates who held trials for ghosts or let a pig decide the next course. Historians still argue if any of it's true. But you like to think that on the sea, where anything can happen, sometimes even the wildest stories hold a kernel of truth. Night falls and the ship grows quiet. Politics never truly sleep. But for now, the alliances hold. The grudges fade, at least until morning. You settle in your hammock, listening to the creak of the hull and the soft mutter of the parrot somewhere above. You've survived another day in the floating parliament. You drift off with a smile, dreaming of a world where even a bird's opinion can tip the scales. The stars are just beginning to fade when a hand shakes your shoulder. Not gentle. Never gentle on this ship, but urgent. You blink in the blue-black darkness, see shadows flitting overhead, hear whispered voices. The entire crew is up before dawn, moving quiet as ghosts. Today is the day you strike. You're not sure if it's the promise of gold or the taste of revenge that sharpens the air. Maybe it's just the thrill of being alive, the heart-thump certainty that something is about to happen, and there's no way to turn back. The captain's orders were clear last night. We attack at dawn, be ready. You tie your sash tight, check your pistol, feel for the dagger at your belt. Every pirate around you is doing the same, hands trembling, not from fear, but anticipation. You catch the eye of the quartermaster who winks and then disappears into the tangle of ropes. Below deck, the gunners prep powder and shot, loading each cannon with a hush born from experience. Above, the deck is crowded but silent. Grappling hooks are coiled, axes sharpened, lines secured. Nobody laughs or jests now. The jokes and rivalries of yesterday are forgotten in the tension of what's about to come. Through the morning gloom, the lookout hisses, "Sail," and all heads snap up. The prize is close. You see her now, a merchant ship riding low in the water, heavy with cargo and hope. The chase was perfect. She never saw you coming. You feel a wild pulse in your chest, excitement and terror wrestling in your belly. The captain signals, not with a shout, but with a raised hand and a glint in her eyes. You know what to do. Every pirate on board does. You've trained for this moment, practiced it until you can do it half asleep, which, given the sleeping conditions, you sometimes are. The ship swings hard to starboard, sails unfurling with a snap. You surge forward. Your heart thuds in time with the creak of wood and the crack of canvas. The world narrows to the slap of bare feet on the deck, the rough handle of your cutlass, the adrenaline singing in your veins. Cannons first, always the cannons. A warning shot whistles over the merchant's bow, a plume of water rising in the dawn light. The other ship freezes, hesitates, but she doesn't stop. The captain curses under her breath. "Again!" she orders. This time the shot clips a rail, splinters fly. You see tiny figures scrambling on the merchant deck, some waving, some ducking for cover. The merchant tries to turn, but it's too late. Your ship closes in, ropes and grappling hooks at the ready. Your hands sweat, but you grip tight, waiting for the order. "Go," the captain shouts. Hooks fly. They land with a dull clatter, ropes snaking across the gap. In seconds you're over the rail, swinging across water, boots slamming down on unfamiliar wood. The world explodes into noise, shouts, curses, the clang of blades. You land hard, rolling to your feet just in time to dodge a barrel kicked your way. Around you, pirates spill over the rail, blades gleaming, pistols flashing. The merchant crew scrambles, some with clubs, a few with swords, most with panic in their eyes. You clash with a sailor, the two of you slipping on spilled oil. You parry his desperate swing and knock him aside with your elbow. You remember what you were taught. Fight smart, fight dirty, don't waste breath on threats. It's over in seconds. A tumble, a shout. Then the man is down, clutching his ribs. You barely notice. The fight has moved on. All around, the air is thick with chaos. The quartermaster shouts orders, voice cutting through the noise. The gunners sweep the deck, firing warning shots into the sky to keep the merchant crew cowering. Pirates race below, searching for cargo, shouting about barrels of sugar and chests of coin. You see the captain herself on the helm, sabre drawn, commanding both ships at once. The merchant captain surrenders, dropping to his knees and tossing the keys to his strongbox. There's no heroics, just fear, defeat, and the promise that he might live if he cooperates. Your captain nods, steps forward, and delivers the line you've heard in every story but never believed until now. Your ship belongs to us today. Looting is methodical, not mindless. The quartermaster takes charge, directing who grabs what and where it goes. Pirates pair off, one in the hold, one on deck, a third keeping watch. Barrels are rolled across the gangplank, sacks slung over shoulders. You join a line passing boxes of oranges, each one heavier than it looks. You feel a strange rush, a giddy laughter bubbling up as you realize you're winning. The fear slips away, replaced by a wild energy. You see a pirate grab a fancy hat from a merchant and plop it on his head, grinning. Another pirate pockets a handful of nuts. There's time for small victories, even in the middle of chaos. But it's not over. The merchant crew, seeing the pirates distracted, tries to fight back. A burly sailor swings a belaying pin at your head. You duck, return a shove, and knock him off balance. All along the rail, pirates grapple and shove. The fight is short, desperate, sweaty. Someone gets thrown into a barrel of molasses, flailing like a fish. You get clipped on the arm by a wild swing. The pain is sharp but shallow. You don't stop. There's no time. The quartermaster barks at you to check the captain's cabin. You sprint below deck, heart pounding, nearly slip on the stairs and burst into a room full of velvet cushions and expensive maps. You snatch up what you can, coins, a silver goblet, A leather-bound book you can't read but figure looks valuable. Someone else finds a locked chest and smashes it open with a pistol butt. Jewellery, some letters, a small carved idol. You grab the idol, unsure why, and stuff it in your pocket. Pirates are practical, but superstition lives deep in the bones. Up above, the last of the resistance fades. The merchant crew drops their weapons. Some beg, some simply sit, heads down. There's no gloating. Pirates aren't monsters, at least not today. The captain orders the survivors to the rail, counts heads and nods. "You'll live," she says, "if you remember this lesson." The loot is loaded, the pirates retreat to their own ship, ropes are cut and you drift apart. The merchant crew watches you go, battered and poorer but alive. The sun rises higher, painting the decks in gold and red. You stand there, sweating, breathless, watching your captain tuck the merchant keys into her coat. You return to your ship in a daze. The crew cheers, whoops, slaps backs and counts the haul. The quartermaster starts sorting the loot, already shouting about who gets which share. Someone brings out a battered tin cup and pours a round of rum for everyone. You down yours in one gulp, the burn hot and sweet. Historians still argue whether pirate attacks were always so organised, or if this order was rare luck. Some say most raids were chaos. Others insist pirates were the best prepared thieves on the sea. After today, you know the truth sits somewhere in the middle, brutal and beautiful, messy and precise all at once. Back below you nurse your arm, cleaning the cut with rum and wrapping it in a rag. You're sore but happy, buzzing with energy. Someone starts singing and the crew joins in. For a moment the hardships vanish, replaced by the glow of shared victory. You look at the loot. Piles of coin, barrels of sugar, crates of fruit. Not everything is gold, but everything is useful. The captain sets aside medical supplies for the sick, divides the food, sets the weapons in a neat row, and then come the stories. Already the brawl with the molasses barrel is growing in size and drama. "He punched a hole in it with his head," someone claims, "then ate his way out." The laughter is loud, genuine, and for a moment you forget every ache and bruise. You settle on the deck, drink in hand, watching the waves as the sun climbs higher. The day isn't over, but the hardest part is done. You feel pride, not just in the loot, but in the way you fought, the way you worked as a team. This is what it means to be a pirate, not just taking, but surviving together. That night, you watch the moon rise over a calm sea. The deck is quiet. Most pirates asleep or nursing their wounds. You run your fingers over the carved idol in your pocket, wonder if it's lucky, or cursed, or just a chunk of wood. You dream of gold, of laughter, of the crash of swords and the taste of victory. Tomorrow, you know, will bring new dangers. A navy ship on the horizon, a sudden squall, maybe even a knife in the dark if someone thinks your share is too large. But for now, you sleep with the sound of the sea and the memory of the day's fight thrumming in your bones. You attacked at dawn and you're still here. Still breathing. Still a pirate. The sun is halfway up the sky before you realise your hands are still shaking. The morning after a raid is always strange. You're alive. You're richer, maybe. But your heart is still running. Your muscles still ready for trouble. It takes hours for that feeling to fade. You find yourself glancing over your shoulder, expecting an attack, or at least a thrown shoe. Pirate fighting isn't just about strength or speed. It's about cunning, trickery, and using whatever's on hand. Yesterday's attack proved it. Your ship may have outgunned the merchant, but the real battle was won with quick thinking and dirty tricks. This morning, the crew is still buzzing, retelling their favourite moments. The bucket of fish guts dumped over a defender's head, the parrot that bit a merchant's ear and refused to let go, the wild chaos at the rail where boots and barrels flew faster than blades. You remember your own moments, the elbow you caught to the ribs, the dagger that skidded across the deck right into your hand, the way you used a fallen broom as a shield for a heartbeat. There's pride in these small victories. On a pirate ship, winning means using what you have, not what you wish for. After breakfast, hardtack dipped in rum plus a rare wedge of orange, you join the others in patching up. The deck looks like an apothecary exploded. Bloodied rags, splintered wood, broken swords. The ship's medic, a grizzled man with a voice like gravel, goes from pirate to pirate, dabbing wounds, setting fingers, scolding anyone who flinches. Could be worse, he says. Could be the time I had to pull an arrow out of my own backside. You don't ask for details. While wounds are tended, stories start again. Some tell of battles lost, others of victories snatched from the jaws of disaster. The oldest pirate on board, a woman known only as Mother Mag, swears she once saw a whole ship taken down by a barrel of rotting fish. They rolled it into the enemy hold, sealed it tight, and let the stink do the rest. By morning, the other crew was too busy retching to fight back. It sounds wild, but here you believe anything. There are other stories about fire ships, those vessels set alight and sent drifting into an enemy fleet. Terrifying, someone mutters. More terrifying if you forget to jump off. The crew laughs, but the humour is edged with truth. Pirates fight dirty because they have to. Training starts before midday. The captain insists on it. A rusty sword's no use to anyone, she says, and neither is a rusty pirate. You gather on deck, forming a lopsided circle around the boatswain, who grins and cracks his knuckles. Today, it's all about improvisation. You pair up. The rules. Defend yourself with whatever you can reach. Ropes, buckets, brooms, even your boots. You laugh at first, until a bucket to the knee reminds you how quickly things turn serious. You learn new tricks. How to blind an attacker with a handful of sand or a splash of brine. How to duck behind the mast and grab a loose coil of rope to trip your opponent. One pirate, skinny as a rail, slips under your guard and knocks your legs out from under you with a mop handle. The others cheer. On a pirate ship, there's no shame in losing, only in not learning. Later, you practice close combat. The deck is crowded, the space tight. Elbows, knees, and boots become weapons. Someone shouts, "No biting," but gets ignored. You duck a punch and jab your opponent in the belly, then sidestep a kick aimed at your shins. Breathing hard, you realise fighting at sea is more about balance than brute force. If you fall, you're done. After training, you're sent below to help the gunners. Cannons have to be cleaned, pistols checked for cracks. The gunner's mate shows you a trick with gunpowder and a bit of wax, makes the flintlock fire even in damp weather. Just don't overdo it, he warns, or you'll take your own eyebrow off. You nod, remembering Pick, the powder monkey with no eyebrows left. The quartermaster calls you over to the side. You fought well, he says, but never forget some pirates win a fight without swinging a blade. He shows you a pouch of dried fish. You know what this is? Bait for the rats. But if you ever need to clear a room, just toss a handful underfoot. You'd be amazed how fast grown men run from rats. You laugh, pocket the tip, and head back to the deck. The sun is hot now, sweat stinging your eyes, but you barely notice. The adrenaline from yesterday is fading, replaced by a sense of accomplishment. You survived. You won. The afternoon brings more tales. A younger pirate tells about the time he tricked an enemy by pretending to faint, only to spring up and knock the man overboard. Another boasts of the time he tied tin pots to his boots to make himself sound bigger and scarier in the dark. There's no end to the creativity here. If it works, it's fair game. You think back to the merchant ship's crew. They fought hard, but most gave up quickly. Pirates rely on that too. The threat is often more powerful than the blade. A pirate waving a pistol might only have one shot, but the enemy doesn't know that. The real weapon is fear, and pirates know how to use it. You remember the parrot too. In the heat of the raid, it perched on a barrel and screeched, "Surrender, or I'll bite your nose." The merchant captain paled. Some say the bird's worth more than a dozen cutlasses. Historians still argue whether pirates really fought with such dirty tricks, or if these stories grew in the telling, but you've seen enough now to know the truth. Survival isn't about honour, it's about whatever works. As the sun sets, the captain gathers the crew. "Good haul," she says, "but don't grow soft. Next time they might fight harder." She points at a barrel by her feet. For those who fought with wits, not just steel. She lifts the lid. Inside are scraps. Broken combs, bits of ribbon, a cracked mirror, even a battered shoe. Trophies from today's raid. Take one. Remember, sometimes the strangest things keep you alive. You choose a bit of ribbon, red and frayed. Maybe you'll tie it to your belt. A reminder. Think fast, move faster. Dinner is loud. Someone sets a fish on fire. The cook blames the stove. You eat quickly, then slip away to the bow, watching the stars appear one by one. The sky is clear, the sea calm. For now, you let your mind wander. Think of tomorrow. Another fight maybe. Another victory. Or a narrow escape. You're not the same person you were when you first climbed aboard. You know how to fight, how to win, and, maybe most important, how to survive by any means necessary. Before sleep you hear one last story. An old-timer claims he once defeated 3 Navy men using nothing but rotten fish and a borrowed coat. The coat smelled worse than the fish, he says. The crew laughs, and so do you. You fall asleep with a smile, ribbon in hand, ready for whatever the sea brings next. When the powder smoke has cleared and the plunder is stowed below, the fate of the captives looms large. You stand at the rail, catching your breath, watching the merchant sailors corralled in a nervous knot on their battered deck. Some are wounded, all are wary, and a few glare at you with wide-eyed defiance, even as their wrists are bound with scratchy hemp. For a pirate crew flush with victory, this moment is as dangerous as any sword fight. What to do with the people whose only crime was being in the wrong place when your shadow fell across the sea? You learn quickly that no 2 pirate crews handle captives quite the same. Some are cruel, some calculating, a few, on rare days, merciful. It depends on the mood, the value of the loot, the anger simmering in the air, and sometimes on who exactly has been captured. This morning, as the quartermaster takes a head count, you notice a strange hush. The captured merchant captain stands tall, jaw clenched, eyes daring your own to look away. His officers try to bargain, flashing promises of gold, safe passage, and a royal reward for mercy. You can almost see the crew's eyes glint. Promises from desperate men are worth little, but now and then they hide a kernel of truth. The pirate code demands a council. The captain calls it, no long speeches, no drawn-out debates. Every pirate gathers in a rough circle, with the captive standing under the close watch of 2 pistol-wielding crew. The air is thick with tension as votes are cast. The choices: ransom, recruit, release, or, if the crew's mood is especially sour, something far harsher. You catch whispers as you wait your turn to vote. Heard the first mate once ran with the Navy. That one's a skilled navigator, could use a man like that. Is that the nobleman's poodle or just a really hairy child? You look. It is in fact a poodle, shivering in a basket. Someone sneaks it a crust of bread. In most cases, ransom is the first choice. Pirates aren't in the business of collecting prisoners, and merchant captains are often worth good coin, especially if their family or company wants them back. You've seen a crew hold a noble for a month, feeding him just enough to keep him healthy, writing a careful letter, with all the spelling errors you'd expect, to his family. The ransom was paid, and the man returned, shaken but alive. Word of that spread through every port. Better to pay pirates than cross them. Occasionally a captive volunteers for piracy. You watch one merchant sailor, young, eyes bright with something between terror and excitement, step forward, asking to join. He's tested, like you were once, with questions about loyalty and skill. Can he tie a bowline, handle a pistol, eat stew without complaint? If he passes, he's given a place among you. If not, he's sent back or left on shore at the next opportunity. You notice that the process is never entirely fair nor entirely cruel. Sometimes the choice depends on nothing more than the mood of the quartermaster or the whim of the captain. You once saw a man set free simply because his story made the crew laugh. Another was marooned for lying about his name. The merchant captain today chooses pride. He won't bargain, won't beg. The vote comes quickly. Ransom. He'll fetch a good price. A message is written. A deal struck. The officers are set aside, guarded. The regular crew, those with no coin or title, are offered a simpler choice: work for their freedom or row to shore in a battered skiff with just enough supplies to survive. You watch the reactions. Some curse you, others just nod, beaten by the logic of the sea. A few seem almost grateful to be alive. One older sailor, hands shaking, thanks you for sparing him. It's only business, you say, feeling a flicker of something like pity, or maybe just relief that it wasn't you on the losing side. Then comes the sorting of the loot, and people. A surgeon or navigator is valuable, sometimes kept aboard. Skilled carpenters or gunners too. The rest, if lucky, are left at the nearest port. If unlucky, they might be forced into piracy, especially if the ship needs more hands and there's no land in sight. But there's always risk in adding new crew. Trust is in short supply. You recall a story of a captive who bided his time for months, then tried to poison the captain. It ended badly. For everyone. Not all captives are treated well. Tempers flare after a hard fight or heavy losses. Some pirates want revenge for wounds, friends killed, or just the sting of a bad day. The captain's job is to keep order. Her word is law. Punishment for harming captives without cause can be severe. The last pirate who tried was put on trial and lost his share of the loot for a season. Historians still argue whether pirates were more brutal or more merciful than navies. There are stories of crews who slaughtered prisoners and stories of pirates who freed every soul on a captured ship. The truth is, as always, somewhere in between, ruled by profit, necessity, and the rolling dice of fortune. You help escort the prisoners below, keeping an eye out for tricks. One tries to slip a blade from his boot. You catch his wrist and shake your head. Don't make it worse. He backs down, and you toss the knife overboard. You're not looking for trouble. There's enough already. Sometimes you get oddities. Animals, pets, strange cargo. That poodle, for instance. The merchant's wife pleads for its safety, promising a silk purse as ransom. The crew laughs, but the captain nods. A deal's a deal. The poodle becomes an unlikely mascot, pampered for a week until it's exchanged for a bag of coin and a tearful reunion on the dock. One time a birdcage is found in a noble's cabin. Inside, a parrot who speaks 3 languages and curses like a drunken pirate. The crew debates for an hour before deciding to keep it. Brings luck, says the quartermaster. The bird's luck proves questionable. It bites 3 fingers and nearly starts a fire with a dropped candle. Still, it stays. Captives aren't just a problem for pirates, they're a currency, a bargaining chip, a story to tell in every tavern from Nassau to Port Royal. Sometimes, you hear tales of pirates who returned a noble's child for free, gaining unexpected allies and safe haven in future raids. Other times, a captive's escape sparks a hunt that haunts the crew for years. Punishments are rare, but unforgettable. A traitor is branded, a thief lashed, a would-be mutineer left on a sandbar with a jug of water and a single pistol. Mercy, when shown, is remembered for years. Cruelty, even more so. One merchant you captured turned out to be a spy for the Navy. The crew debated his fate all night. Some wanted him hanged, others argued for ransom. In the end, the captain set him free, stripped of everything but his shirt and his secret orders. He rowed for shore, and 2 weeks later the Navy stopped hunting your ship. Coincidence? No one's sure. Sometimes you get it wrong. Quiet, weeping woman turns out to be a deadly fighter, attacking 2 pirates with a hidden blade before she's subdued. She earns a measure of respect, and a place on the crew. You keep your distance for a while. Other times, mistakes are costly. You once let a young boy go, thinking him harmless. A month later, he guided a Navy ship right to your hiding place. Lesson learned. Everyone is a threat until proven otherwise. The code is clear but not infallible. Justice is swift but never certain. You see the weight of it in the captain's eyes every time a decision must be made. These aren't just rules. They're the thread that holds the whole mad life together. After the captives are dealt with, the crew relaxes. Tension fades. Some joke about the poodle, others count their share of gold. You feel lighter too, until you notice the empty spot where a crewmate used to sleep. Lost in the fight, left behind, or simply gone. Loss is as much a part of piracy as loot. Before sunset, the merchant captain is brought on deck again. The ransom note is ready, sealed with a blob of red wax and the mark of your ship. You hand it over, watch him nod, and see something soften in his eyes. Not gratitude, not forgiveness, just understanding. You both know the game. You share a meal, bread, stew, a rare apple, then send him back to his battered ship. His crew rows away, quiet and slow. You watch until they're specks on the horizon, wondering where fate will take them. The day ends with the sea calm, the sky painted gold and pink. The captain raises a cup and the crew drinks to luck, to profit, to survival. You join them, feeling the strange mix of pride and regret that always follows a battle. In your hammock that night you replay the day's choices, mercy or punishment, profit or pity. You think of the captives, the crew, the rules that guide you. There are no easy answers on the sea, only choices and the hope that you've made the right one. As you drift off, you hear the parrot call out from its perch, "Fair winds, pay up." You smile, knowing tomorrow the cycle begins again. New faces, new choices, new risks. Such is the way of pirates. You wake to the slap of the waves and the sound of boots on deck, the aftertaste of last night's rum lingering. Someone is already arguing over breakfast about where the real treasure is kept. It's a subject that never dies on a pirate ship. The promise of hidden gold, secret islands, and the myth of buried fortune. The idea of buried treasure glimmers in every pirate tale, whispered in ports, painted on old maps, sewn into dreams as if one day you'll just stumble on a chest full of coins with your name on it. But if you've learned anything, it's this. Treasure rarely stays buried for long, and even when it does, the hunt is almost never what you expect. The day starts with a new raid's loot to be sorted. Barrels of sugar and cocoa, a crate of Spanish coins, 3 bolts of bright silk and a bag of something labelled Saint. Lucia pepper, which makes your eyes water just thinking about it. You help the quartermaster count, weigh and argue over every piece. This is treasure, no doubt about it, but it's not the chest of legend. Most plunder is practical: food, tools, medicine, a new sail. The golden jewels, when you find them, are rare, split and spent long before anyone can dream of digging them into the sand. Still, the myth persists. You've seen pirates clutch old maps, the edges crumbling, ink faded to a whisper. You hear stories over the rum. My uncle's shipmate buried a chest near Tortuga, left a coconut tree to mark the spot. Or, I heard Blackjack hid a cask of rubies on a reef that only appears at low tide. You smile, because most times you've dug for loot. All you found is wet sand and some very irritated crabs. You remember the time the crew really did try for buried treasure. The first mate had a scrap of parchment, burned at the edges, showing a curl of coastline and an X as dramatic as you could want. For days everyone was jumpy, cleaning pistols, whispering about retiring rich. When you finally reached the beach, you dug until your hands bled, sweat running down your back, only to find an empty box with a single wooden spoon and a note that read, "Too slow, lads, try again." The first mate didn't speak to anyone for a week, yet hope is hard to kill. Even now you keep a tiny pouch of coins hidden deep in your hammock, just in case you ever need to disappear. Everyone does. Secret stashes tucked in boots, in the lining of coats, sewn into the sailcloth or stuffed inside hollowed-out books. If you can hide it, someone's tried. Historians still argue whether the most famous pirates, like Captain Kidd or Henry Morgan, really buried mountains of gold, or if these legends grew bigger with every telling. Some say the maps were real, others claim the whole idea was a trick, meant to lure rivals to empty shores or keep the crew dreaming when the ship's belly was empty. You hear tales of cursed treasure too. Coins that bring storms, rubies that make men disappear, pearls with blood trapped inside. A gunner once swore he found a ring in the belly of a shark, wore it for a week, and then couldn't sleep a wink. He tossed it back into the sea. Since then, any gold found in a fish is offered to the captain first. Superstition runs deep as the ocean here. You're tasked today with helping a group hide the haul. Not bury it, but conceal it on the ship until you reach a safer port. The quartermaster is clever. False bottoms in barrels, a box of nails lined with silver, sacks of coffee beans with jewellery nestled in the centre. You help sew coins into the hem of a sail, then stitch it back onto the yardarm. If the ship is searched, the loot stays hidden, at least until you can sell it. But there's danger in keeping treasure close. You've seen fights break out over a single coin. More than once a trusted mate has vanished overnight, taking a bag of loot with him, never to be seen again. Trust is hard-earned and easily broken. Sometimes you wake to whispers in the dark, someone counting, someone digging through another's things. The quartermaster keeps the lockbox chained to his belt, and even then, he sleeps with one eye open. One evening, a rumour sweeps the deck. A famous pirate's grave was found on an island up north, his bones surrounded by rings and Spanish silver. Some want to set sail immediately, others scoff. If he was so rich, why'd he die out there? It's a fair point. Most pirates don't live long enough to enjoy their loot, let alone bury it for future dreamers. You once helped bury a chest yourself. Not gold, but a collection of letters and tokens, the keepsakes of a lost friend. The spot was marked by a carved shell, hidden among 1,000 others. You visit when you can, the memory sweeter than any coin. Sometimes you think that's what treasure really is, not the gold you spend, but the stories and secrets you keep. Still, you dream. Everyone dreams. On sleepless nights, you listen to the older pirates talk about the big haul, the one that will let them retire to a farm or a tavern, far from the salt and blood. You've heard it said that every pirate ship is half crew, half hope. There's an old game played on deck when the wind is light. One pirate tells of the treasure he'll buy, another describes the island he'll own, the third spins a wild tale of a cave filled with emeralds and no doors but moonlight. The laughter is soft and sad because most know it will never happen, but dreaming is its own reward. The next day you make port. The loot is unloaded, sold to traders who don't ask questions. The coins jingle in your pocket, but they disappear faster than a summer storm. Repairs, rum, bribes, debts. Gold slips through your fingers like water. You keep a little, hide it well, but spend most. No pirate ever grows rich by hoarding. Life is too short. Fortune is too fickle. Still, the tales won't die. A new recruit swears his cousin buried silver under a certain palm tree marked with a cross. The old hands roll their eyes. Someone draws a crude map, leaves it on the mess table. By morning it's gone. Historians write about treasure maps, about cryptic clues and desperate hunts. They argue whether any of it was real. The crew argues too, over rum, over dice, over who gets the top hammock. The search for treasure is eternal, a dream that keeps you warm when the sea is cold. You find yourself humming an old song about a chest of gold beneath the waves, a secret kept by the fish and the stars. The quartermaster joins in, tapping a rhythm on the rail. The tune drifts over the water, echoing through the night. Later, as you watch the moon rise, you realise you've found something no map could promise. Not gold or jewels, not even the hidden coins in your hammock, but a kind of belonging. A place in the story, a share in the dream. The wind shifts and you feel it. An urge to chase the next prize, to sail for the next legend, to keep searching even when you know the truth. Treasure, you think, is not what you find. It's what you chase. It's the hunt that matters, the hope, the wildness, the laughter that keeps the salt from turning bitter. You turn in, the sound of coins clinking somewhere below, a secret between you and the sea. Tomorrow someone will whisper of another buried chest, another map, another dream, and you'll listen. You always do. The ship shudders as you round a spit of land, a forested finger reaching out into the waves half shrouded in mist. After weeks at sea, the promise of land, even if only for a night or two, is enough to lift spirits across the whole crew. This isn't any ordinary port, though. It's a pirate haven, a secret cove, a lawless town, a place where all the hard rules of the ocean bend just a little in favour of comfort and cunning. Pirates don't always have the luxury of big, bustling cities. Instead, You learn the geography of survival. Hidden inlets where the water is deep and the reefs guard the entrance like teeth. Tiny harbours where only those who know the route can enter without scraping their hull. Beaches invisible from the sea, blocked by jagged rocks and swirling fog. These are the places pirates call home between storms and squalls. You stand at the rail as the anchor is dropped, watching the cove's outline sharpen. Palm trees bow over ramshackle huts, a jumble of colours and canvas sails flapping in the breeze. The air smells of brine, smoke and roasting meat. You can almost hear laughter drifting from shore. Already the taverns are open and the fires are burning. Before anyone can go ashore, the captain lays down the law. No picking fights with the local traders. No stealing from allies. Return before dawn, or you'll find yourself stranded. She doesn't care how good the party is. The crew nods, though you know a few will test the rule, slipping off to gamble or woo someone in the glow of lanterns, hoping the tide waits for them. The first steps on land feel wrong. Your legs wobble. The ground is too steady, your knees want to bend with each imagined wave. It takes a few minutes before you trust yourself not to fall over. Someone laughs, hands you a mug of something sweet and strong, and suddenly the world tilts the right way. The town itself is chaos made flesh. Markets filled with traders from a dozen nations, hawking everything from rum to weapons to exotic pets. Street cooks grill fish fresh from the sea, slapping it onto leaves with a sprinkle of hot pepper. Children dart underfoot, pockets full of coins and secrets. You pass a shop that sells only hats, hundreds, stacked like ships in a fleet, feathers bristling, silk streaming, and not a single honest price in sight. The crew fans out. Some head for the taverns, their laughter already echoing. Others barter with traders for boots, new shirts, or a better pistol. You see the quartermaster deep in negotiation with a woman who promises the best compass east of the moon. A few old hands disappear into the shadows hunting for information, listening for rumours of prizes to chase or navies to avoid. For all the colour and joy, danger hums beneath every moment. Pirates may call these places home, but there's no honour among thieves if the price is high enough. You keep one hand on your coin pouch, eyes flicking from alley to alley. More than one pirate has met their end in a place just like this, a knife between the ribs from a friend who smiled too wide. You slip into a tavern, the Drunken Mermaid, where the walls are scrawled with the names of ships, lovers and enemies. The room is thick with smoke, lit by swinging lanterns and the flicker of firelight. At the bar, you trade a coin for a glass of spiced rum and a bowl of stew that tastes suspiciously of last week's catch. You take a seat at a table crowded with strangers, a smuggler missing 2 fingers, a woman with a scar across her cheek, a man who claims to have lost his shadow to a witch in Havana. Stories swirl. Someone boasts of a raid on a Spanish galleon. Another claims to have seen a sea monster off the reefs, as long as the ship itself, with eyes like lanterns and a mouthful of anchors. The tales are half truth, half wish, and everyone listens, even the old hands who pretend they've heard it all before. The night rolls on. You win a hand of dice, lose the next 3, and gain a hat that's far too big for your head. Someone gives you a battered deck of cards marked and bent from 1,000 games. A singer takes the corner stage, her voice rising above the laughter and the rattle of mugs. For a while, you almost forget you're a pirate, hunted and hungry for coin. Here, for an hour or 2, you're just a soul among many, chasing the same flicker of warmth and song. Outside, the market stays alive long past midnight. Vendors hawk dried fruits, salt pork, and even magic beans, which you wisely avoid. A boy offers to sell you a map to a real hidden treasure. You buy it for a laugh. It's drawn in crayon, showing an island shaped suspiciously like a chicken. Some crew get in trouble, of course. A fight breaks out near the wharf, but it's quickly settled by a local judge. A massive man with arms like tree trunks, and a calm that makes even the wildest pirate pause. His word is final, and his fist is faster than most blades. You remember the captain's warning: decide your coin is better spent on another round of rum. You visit a shop run by a woman known only as Mother Salt. She deals in secrets, potions, and the occasional bit of real magic. Her shop smells of dried herbs, pepper, and something stranger, maybe hope. You buy a charm just in case, for luck, for wind, for a safe return. Historians still argue whether pirate havens like this, Port Royal, Nassau, Ile Sainte-Marie, were truly the lawless paradises legend describes, or simply places where danger traded hands with every coin. The answer, you suspect, is both. They are places of freedom and of risk, where a pirate can be king or corpse, all in the same night. You catch sight of familiar faces, pirates from other ships, some you fought with, some you fought against. For tonight all grudges are put aside. There's talk of joining forces for a raid, splitting profits on a risky prize. Tomorrow you might be rivals again, but here alliances shift like sand in the tide. Sometimes you catch a glimpse of justice. A thief is caught stealing from a sleeping drunk and is run out of town to jeers and flying fruit. Another pirate caught cheating at cards is forced to spend an hour wearing nothing but a barrel in his shame. The laughter is sharp, but the lesson is clear. Everyone gets a fair shot, but break the trust and you're done. You visit the docks before dawn. Boats bob quietly, ready to slip out with the tide. Some belong to pirates, others to traders, smugglers, fishermen. A navy ship lies at anchor, its flag furled, its crew pretending not to watch as pirates come and go. You wonder if they'll give chase tomorrow, or if their captain prefers to trade stories and gold rather than cannonballs. The crew begins to gather, some already drunk, others trading the last of their coin for breakfast. The sun peeks over the trees, golden and new. You look back at the town, the flicker of lanterns, the sound of song fading with the light. You feel a pang knowing that this place, for all its danger, is as close to home as you'll ever get. The anchor is raised. The captain counts heads, eyes lingering on the ones slow to return. She shrugs. A pirate ship waits for no one. You push off, the cove slipping away behind a curtain of mist and sun. The ocean opens ahead, wide, wild, and full of possibility. As the town disappears, someone starts a song. The crew joins in, voices rough and joyful. The cove fades, but the memory lingers. A place of laughter and loss, risk and reward, where the rules are written new every day. And as you take your place on deck, salt wind in your hair, you know you'll carry a bit of this lawless home wherever the waves may take you. For pirates, every cove is both a refuge and a gamble. Every haven, a chance for rest. And a reminder that nothing, not even safety, lasts forever. The cove slips behind as the sails catch a fresh morning wind, but no one breathes easy just yet. Everyone aboard knows that the sea's sense of justice is harsh, swift, and often strange. The crew falls into uneasy silence, the euphoria of land quickly replaced by the tension that always follows a return to the lawless deep. You catch yourself watching the captain's face, reading every twitch and wrinkle. Everyone is waiting for the other shoe to drop. This is the shadow that comes after the laughter, pirate justice, and the ghosts it leaves behind. The day starts as always with work. But even as you help stow supplies and mend a torn sail, you hear the undertone. A rumour whispered first by the cook, then picked up by the powder monkey, then spoken outright by Noon. Someone's stolen from the lockbox. A sharp chill runs through the crew. The quartermaster calls for order. Everyone gathers on deck, hands empty, faces closed. The lockbox sits at the quartermaster's feet, its heavy iron lock now broken, coins and trinkets scattered like spilled secrets. This isn't the first time, and it won't be the last. Pirate justice is made for moments like this. There's no police, no court, no distant judge. Here, law is the code, and the code is enforced by those who live by it. You watch as suspects are called forward, old hands and new blood alike. There are no special favours. The captain's eyes are cold, her voice even colder. A short trial follows, more public than fair. Everyone gets a say. You hear evidence. Who was near the chest? Who's been spending a little too freely? Who was last seen with a key? The accused defend themselves, some with anger, some with tears, one with a shrug and a wry smile. The crew listens, then votes. Today, the vote goes against one of the newer pirates, a kid called Lucky, who's never been lucky at all. The quartermaster announces the sentence, 20 lashes and a month without a share. It could have been worse. Marooning, keel-hauling, even a knife in the night. Pirate justice is nothing if not flexible. The punishment is carried out at sunset, the crew watching in silence. You feel the weight of each lash, the lesson hammered home, steal from the crew, and the crew will take its price in blood. Night falls heavy after justice is served. The air is thick with ghosts. Old stories surface in low voices. The time a mutineer was tied to the mast during a storm, left to scream into the wind. The quartermaster who lost his temper and threw a traitor overboard, only to see the man's ghost walk the deck for weeks after. Superstition soaks through pirate life like salt in the seams. Some say the dead never leave at sea. A dropped coin means a spirit is watching. A sudden cold wind is a warning. You've seen grown pirates refuse to sleep in a certain hammock because old Finn died there and he's not done snoring. You hear more stories that night than you care to remember. A man claims he saw the face of his oldest enemy in the water, grinning up at him from beneath the waves. Another says the ship's bell rang 3 times on its own the night after a hanging, and no one's rung it since. There are tales of sea lights, strange blue flames dancing along the rigging in the darkest storms, guiding the souls of the lost home. Historians still argue whether these ghost stories were a way to explain the harsh world pirates lived in, or simply a means of enforcing the code by fear. You think it's both. The rules are real, so are the punishments. But the ghosts are the echo of every wrong choice, every old crime, every crewman left behind. Pirate courts are quick and brutal, but sometimes justice is poetic. The captain once sentenced a liar to mop the deck until the next full moon, his only company a bucket and the parrot who repeated every curse he uttered. Another time a thief was forced to wear a sign around his neck. I stole from my brothers. Laugh at me. The laughter was merciless. The lesson stuck. It isn't always lashings and shame. Sometimes the crew votes to forgive. A rare, shocking thing always remembered. One night, a young sailor confessed to sneaking extra food during a storm. The crew, half-starved, could have punished him. Instead, they handed him the last piece of fruit and laughed, calling it a tax on hope. Forgiveness, here, is a luxury, as rare as gold. Then there's keel-hauling, whispered about but rarely used. It's the worst of pirate punishments. A man tied and dragged beneath the ship's barnacle-encrusted hull, risking drowning or being torn to shreds. Most pirates fear the story more than the punishment itself. The last time it happened on your ship, the man survived. Barely. His scars are the reason new recruits learn the code by heart. Ghost stories grow bolder after punishments. The parrot starts squawking nonsense in the dead of night and everyone jumps. Someone claims to see a shadow in the hold, pacing where the thief once slept. You keep your knife close, superstition or not. On a pirate ship, belief is as much armour as steel. You notice the changes after justice is served. The crew grows careful, cautious, watching each other for signs of trouble. Small kindnesses appear. An extra scoop of stew, a soft word, a pat on the shoulder. The code binds you all together, even as it frightens. One evening a storm blows in, wild and sudden. Lightning forks across the sky, illuminating the waves in ghostly blue. The captain stands at the helm, daring the storm to take her. You huddle below, listening to the wind howl, some pray, others curse. The storm passes, but the stories grow. Now the storm is part of the ship's memory, woven into every whispered legend. The cook claims to hear voices at night, old crewmates lost in storms, friends left behind on lonely islands, even the poodle that once brought luck but died in a squabble over a bone. You laugh. But the laughter dies quickly. It's hard to joke about the dead when the sea feels so close. Every pirate ship is haunted one way or another. Haunted by the choices made, by the friends lost, by the old wrongs never quite put right. The code tries to keep the worst at bay, but sometimes you can feel the past reach out. A cold hand on your shoulder when you're alone on watch, a shiver that has nothing to do with wind. Punishments are always public. Justice is always seen. That's the point, to remind everyone that survival depends on the group, not the individual. Steal from the crew, and the crew answers as one. Hurt a mate, and the wound belongs to all. Even mercy is shared. If you forgive, you do so together. The crew tell stories of ships lost to mutiny, of captains murdered in their sleep, of ghosts that steer the ship into rocks out of spite. No one says it aloud, but everyone wonders, will we be next? Will our ghosts linger longer than our stories? You see the code posted in the mess, each rule inked bold and black. It's more than words. It's a shield, a promise that even here, in the wildest corner of the world, there is order. Maybe not the king's order, or God's, but yours. You live and die by it. Most days you're grateful for it. And so you sail on, the ghost behind you, the code beside you, justice ahead, never far, never soft. You know that tomorrow another challenge will rise, another test of loyalty, another chance for the sea to judge. You sleep with one eye open, your knife under your pillow, the code whispering in your dreams. You hear the parrot one last time before dawn. Remember the code, mind the ghosts. You smile, and for a moment you feel safe, if only because you know exactly what you risk. For pirates, justice is both sword and story. Every punishment, every ghost, every whispered legend keeps the world spinning a little longer, the ship afloat a little farther, and the fire in your heart burning, even as the night presses close. Night at sea is a living thing. It wraps around the ship like a velvet glove, softening the wood, quieting the waves, swallowing every sound except the distant creak of the rigging and the hushed sighs of tired pirates. This is the hour when the bravest stories are told, when the wounds of the day sting less, and when the dreams of pirates drift furthest from land. After justice, after laughter, after all the business of living and fighting is done, you have nothing left but time, stars and each other. You lie back in your hammock, the ship gently rocking, and listen to the low murmur of the crew. Someone is singing, a lullaby from a faraway island, the words slurred and slow. Others are gambling, tossing dice with lazy flicks of their fingers, whispering promises and threats in the dark. Someone sharpens a knife in the shadows, the soft rasp lost to the sea breeze. It's peaceful, in a way you never imagined possible on a pirate ship. The world outside, king's law, hunger, enemies, can't touch you here, not for a few hours. But not everyone can sleep. For some, the night is a time of worry. There are always new risks on the horizon. A warship sails in the dawn, the angry ghost of a betrayed friend, a fever spreading below deck, a rumour of mutiny. The code helps. So does the comfort of company, the warmth of a body nearby. You roll over and see a pair of boots sticking out from a hammock, a hand draped carelessly over a pistol, a curl of hair trailing from beneath a ragged hat. You think about what you've learned, how to fight, how to steal, how to survive, but most of all, how to belong. That's the strangest secret of pirate life. Beneath the violence and the greed, the life and death stakes, there's a kind of family here. Not the family you were born with, but the one you've bled with, wept with, howled and laughed and nearly died with. You wouldn't trade it for anything, not even for all the king's gold. Your mind drifts back over the months. You remember the first time you climbed the rigging, dizzy and shaking, sure you'd fall. The first laugh you shared over a rotten meal. The fear in your belly as you waited to see if you'd be accepted or thrown overboard for being too slow, too quiet, too weak. You remember the little victories, a coin won at dice, a friend made during storm watch, a wound cleaned and stitched by hands no less scarred than your own. The sea, you realise, has changed you. You aren't the person you were when you signed on, wide-eyed and desperate. Now the roll of the ship is as familiar as your own heartbeat. The salt is in your hair, your skin, your bones. You know what it means to keep a secret, to honour a bargain, to fight for your share and your friends. You also know loss. Every pirate learns that lesson. You think of the crewmates who vanished in the last raid, the ones taken by sickness or by their own greed. Sometimes you whisper their names at night, just to keep them close. You hope someone will do the same for you when your time comes. Outside, a new wind rises, the sails snap, the mast groans. Someone on watch calls down, a light on the horizon, faint as hope. You sit up, squint into the dark. Could be a merchant ship, heavy with cargo and dreams. Could be a navy vessel, all guns and vengeance. Or maybe it's just another pirate, lost like you, searching for something only the sea can offer. The captain is already awake, boots on, coat thrown over her nightshirt. She stands on the quarterdeck, silhouette sharp against the stars. You admire her, not for her rank or her skill with a blade, but for her stubbornness. She never gives up. Not when the loot is thin, not when the storms are thick, not even when justice must be served to her own friends. That's what keeps this crew together. Her will, and the will she's built in all of you. A whispered plan goes around. Maybe you'll shadow the ship until dawn, see if she's worth a chase. Maybe you'll slip away, silent as ghosts, and vanish into another sunrise. You all know how quickly the story can change. 1 minute you're celebrating, the next you're running, the next you're making deals for your life. Historians still argue whether pirates lived for the gold, or for the freedom, or for the sheer thrill of cheating death one more day. Listening to the soft laughter around you, the jokes traded in the dark, you think it's all of those, and more. You can't explain it to anyone who hasn't lived it. You can only live it yourself and let the stories grow. Soon, the watch has changed. You take your place, eyes stinging from sleep, legs steady on the swaying boards. The sea is wide, empty, mysterious. You scan the horizon, listen to the slow breathing of the ship. In the east, the first hints of grey light up the clouds. A new day, another chance. You make a silent promise to remember, to survive, to laugh, to hold on to the family you found in this wild, mad, beautiful world. Behind you, a crewmate snores, clutching a bottle like a baby. The parrot calls out, full share, and the whole crew chuckles. You smile, tuck your coat tight against the wind, and look out at the endless water. Whatever comes next, fight, feast, storm, or song, you're ready. This is your life now, your story, and you wouldn't trade it for anything. The ship glides gently through the dark, the sea cradling her like a mother rocking a restless child. The sails flutter, whispering secrets to the moon, while the water's slow pulse sets a rhythm softer than sleep. The crew is quiet, their voices dimming to sighs, their bodies slack with well-earned rest. You find yourself slowing too, every muscle relaxing, breath deepening, the world shrinking to the comfort of your hammock and the lull of the sea. In this hour, the worries of the day slip away. The sharp edges of memory, the sting of old wounds, even the clangor of battle, fade, softened by the hush of waves against wood. The night is gentle now, safe. You remember the faces of friends, the warmth of shared laughter, the strange, wild joys of the pirate's life. Let your mind drift, let your body grow heavy. Picture the stars winking above, the ship riding the slow current, the horizon endless and calm. You are carried by wind, by water, by the stories you've lived and the ones you'll dream tonight. The adventure will wait for tomorrow. Rest now. You are safe here, with the rhythm of the sea, with the code of your crew, with the quiet promise of another day. Let go and let the darkness cradle you like a secret. Good night, sailor. You've survived the storm, found your place and claimed your share. Now drift, dream, and let the sea carry you. Sweet dreams,